Zhang Ying was facing Qin Chen. How could he possibly have a good outcome? With the other party's temperament, he would definitely retaliate fiercely against him. Ha ha ha. Brat, I told you not to be arrogant. In this match, you better not admit defeat. Ha ha ha. Qin Chen leaped onto the arena, saying triumphantly with a ferocious look on his face. Zhang Ying, don't go up. Qin Chen will definitely try to kill you, Lin Qian said anxiously. So what? Even if I, Zhang Ying, am not a match, I am not a coward who surrenders without a fight. But you, Lin Qian, don't say any more. Chen Xiao, I'm going up. Without waiting for Qin Chen to speak, Zhang Ying leaped up and landed on the arena. Boy, you actually dare to come up. Qin Chen looked surprised, his fists cracking as he clenched them. Chen Xiao, quickly tell Zhang Ying to admit defeat. He's going to be beaten to death. Below the stage, Lin Qian was pacing around anxiously. Lin Qian, if it were you, would you admit defeat? Qin Chen suddenly asked. Lin Qian was stunned, and said, me. Of course, I wouldn't admit defeat, but Zhang Ying, he. That's good then. You wouldn't admit defeat, and Zhang Ying definitely won't admit defeat either, Qin Chen said in a deep voice. If a person doesn't even have the courage to face a strong enemy, how can he become a true expert? This, for Zhang Ying, is a test of metamorphosis. On the field, Qin Chen looked at Zhang Ying with a smile that wasn't a smile, like a cat toying with a mouse. Match start. Along with the instructor's low shout, Zhang Ying's eyes turned cold, his figure swayed, and he took the lead in launching an attack. Like a cheetah, he instantly arrived in front of Qin Chen and punched out. Blazing sun flame fist. Rumble. The air seemed to burn in an instant, and the scorching heat wave, like a volcanic eruption, swept towards Qin Chen. Ha ha ha. This is your attack. Too weak. Qin Chen laughed loudly, a cold light flashing in his eyes, and he punched straight out. Bang! The scorching fist wind shattered instantly. In terms of true chi intensity, Zhang Ying, who was only at the intermediate stage of the human realm, was simply no match for Qin Chen, who was at the late stage of the human realm. The quality of the true chi was not on the same level at all. Shattering Zhang Ying's fist wind with one punch, Qin Fen's body was like a mad dragon, his fists covering Zhang Ying like a giant mountain, a savage smile on his face as he said, "Lie down for me." Flying crane shadowless. Zhang Ying seemed to have anticipated this scene. The moment Qin Chen shattered his fist wind, he soared into the air, his figure ethereal like a flying crane, suddenly leaping behind Qin Chen and kicking his back with lightning speed. Golden crane stands alone. Zhang Ying's leg shadows were like whip shadows, turning into a hurricane, instantly arriving behind Qin Chen, so fast that it was unbelievable. Flying crane footwork, a high-grade yellow realm movement technique. Someone with knowledge recognized the movement technique Zhang Ying was using and exclaimed. Zhang Ying used to be just a junior class disciple. How could he have mastered such a movement technique? I heard that the flying crane footwork is extremely difficult, and even ordinary late-stage human realm martial artists may not be able to master it. Hiss. This is really ghostly. Zhang Ying, Lin Qian, and Qin Chen used to hang out together often. The strength of these three seems to have suddenly increased a lot. This kick, like a gazelle hanging its horns, is traceless and unpredictable. It's simply amazing. Qin Chen won't be careless and make a mistake, will he? Qin Chen, who was in the arena, was also slightly stunned. He originally thought he could easily defeat Zhang Ying, but Zhang Ying had strangely disappeared in front of him, and then a hurricane came from behind. Qin Chen knew that something was wrong, but after all, his cultivation was extraordinary. In the midst of the crisis, he actually used his right foot as the center, and suddenly turned around, punching towards the direction from which the strong wind was coming. Peerless King Fist. Poof. Fists and legs collided in the void. Qin Chen didn't have enough power and staggered back a few steps. On the other side, Zhang Ying also flew out like an eagle. After landing on the ground, he staggered back more than 10 steps before stabilizing his figure, his right foot numb and his blood churning. Damn it, I didn't hit him. Zhang Ying's face darkened when his premeditated move failed. Brat, you dare to sneak attack me. You're courting death. Qin Chen was furious. A dignified peak late-stage human realm expert was actually forced back by a junior class disciple. Qin Chen felt a great humiliation. Whoosh! Under the rage, his figure was like a ghost, instantly arriving in front of Zhang Ying, his hands forming knife-like fingers, slashing several times in a row. Zhang Ying, be careful. Qin Chen's eyes narrowed, and he suddenly shouted. Not good. Zhang Ying was shocked, and hurriedly retreated, while simultaneously placing his arms in front of his chest, trying to block Qin Chen's attack. Too late. Qin Chen's face was ferocious, and terrifying power erupted from his hand knives. The terrifying true qi tore apart the defensive true qi on Zhang Ying's body. The hand knives were like lightning. The first strike hit Zhang Ying's left arm, the second strike hit Zhang Ying's right arm, and the third strike heavily struck Zhang Ying's chest. Crack! 3 bone-cracking sounds rang out almost at the same time. Zhang Ying's left and right arms instantly broke, and even his chest made a bone-cracking sound, sinking in by a large piece. After flying out more than 10 meters, he fell heavily to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood, unable to get up no matter what. Qin Chen wins. Qin Chen wanted to continue attacking, but the instructor beside him had already announced the results of the match. Damn it! Qin Chen was extremely annoyed. He had been blinded by anger and had seriously injured Zhang Ying. If he had known, he should have slowly played him to death. Zhang Ying. Lin Qian rushed onto the arena at the first moment, but Qin Chen was faster than him and had already helped Zhang Ying up. Chen Xiao. Lin Qian looked at Qin Chen uneasily. Zhang Ying is fine, but with this injury, I'm afraid he'll have to recuperate for a long time. Qin Chen said, squinting his eyes. Zhang Ying had broken a full 5 ribs, and even injured his internal organs. In addition, his arms were completely fractured. It would probably be difficult for him to fully recover in less than a month. HMPH. I was already being kind by not crippling him, Qin Chen grinned, his eyes like those of a lone wolf, sneering, Qin Chen, don't worry, you're next. I'll be waiting. Qin Chen stood up and handed Zhang Ying to the instructor who had come to treat him, a terrifyingly sharp light shooting out from his eyes. The first round of the competition quickly ended, and 16 contestants were selected. The most eye-catching were naturally Li Qingfeng, Wang Qiming, and Zhao Lingshan. All 3 of them had broken through to the Earth realm and were on a completely different level from ordinary students. In everyone's mind, the top 3 were undoubtedly these 3. The 3 powerhouses are standing tall. I really want to see the competition between them. Yes. I wonder which of the 3 great Earth realm experts is even better. Although the arena competition is said to be randomly drawn, according to the usual practice, Earth realm contestants are seeded contestants and will not be arranged together in the first few rounds. If you want to see it, it will be at least after 3 rounds. The other students are probably going to be unlucky. Even a peak late-stage human realm student who draws them will find it difficult to withstand 10 moves. Everyone was discussing, each with their own favorites, secretly looking forward to the continuation of the competition. After resting for half an incense stick's time, the second round of the competition began. Just as the instructor for drawing lots was about to go up, Gozu walked over at this moment, smiling, and said, Instructor Luo Zhan, let me draw the lots for the students in this round of competition. Luo Zhan was taken aback, looked at Gozu, and then smiled. All right, then I'll have to trouble you, Instructor Gozu. Ha ha, Instructor Luo Zhan, you're too polite. Gozu smiled slightly and walked onto the stage, but he secretly breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. He knew very well the power of the Qin family. If he took their money but didn't handle things properly, even if he was an instructor at Sky Star Academy, he was afraid he would not escape the Qin family's punishment. Seeing Gozu on stage, Qin Chen's eyes lit up below, and he revealed a grim smile as he looked at Qin Chen. Madam, it has been arranged. On the high platform, Qin Yong had returned to Madame Zhao's side at some point and said with a bow. I saw it. You've done well. Madame Zhao smiled sinisterly. Qin Chen's changes made her feel a sense of urgency. If she didn't cripple Qin Chen in this great examination, she would feel uneasy. At this moment, Qin Yuqi below suddenly glanced at Zhao Feng behind her, as well as Gozu on the stage, a cold glint flashing in her eyes. The instructor for drawing lots was changed. No one took such a small episode to heart. Gozu reached into the lottery box, groped for a while, and slowly drew out 2 wooden tags, then announced loudly, the first match of the second round, Wang Qiming versus Huang Yuxuan. The first match was a highlight, and everyone immediately became excited. Huang Yuxuan was a veteran advanced class student with a cultivation base as high as the late-stage peak of the human realm, and also one of the most promising students to break through to the earth realm. Wang Qiming, I will not admit defeat. Huang Yuxuan held a black iron spear, his eyes sharp. At Huang Yuxuan's level, even if he knew he was not a match, he would not easily admit defeat. Wang Qiming said expressionlessly, whether you admit defeat or not, the result will be the same. That's not necessarily true. Huang Yuxuan snorted coldly. Seeing that the two were ready, Gozu announced loudly, the competition begins. As soon as he finished speaking, Huang Yuxuan stomped the ground with both feet. Bang! The ground instantly exploded, and the violent air turned into a cyclone rising up. Huang Yuxuan suddenly appeared in front of Wang Qiming, and the black spear transformed into a vast ocean, sweeping towards Wang Qiming. Sweeping through 1,000 armies. Buzz buzz buzz. The air vibrated, and the black spear carried terrifying power. In front of the spear, the air was torn apart like paper, and endless spear shadows engulfed Wang Qiming, like a reef covered by a huge wave. Clang! Just as the overwhelming spear shadows were about to engulf the opponent, a snow-bright saber light suddenly lit up, like the first ray of dawn before dawn, instantly filling everyone's eyes. Ding! A crisp sound of metal clashing rang out. On the plaza, the overwhelming spear shadows suddenly dissipated, leaving only Huang Yuxuan with a look of horror, his figure retreating rapidly. He was fast, but the saber light was faster. Whoosh! With one saber, he broke through the overwhelming spear shadows. Wang Qiming took advantage of the situation to pursue, and his right hand shook lightly. The next moment, the snow-bright saber light spurted out, flashing past Huang Yuxuan's body. Poochie! The martial robe on Huang Yuxuan's chest was torn open, and a saber mark appeared on his chest, with blood seeping out. Huang Yuxuan stared blankly at the saber mark on his chest, and the black iron spear in his hand fell with a clang, his eyes dull. On the other side, Wang Qiming had already sheathed his saber and walked off the stage. Wang Qiming wins. An instructor announced the result from the side. Wow! The audience instantly erupted into an uproar. Too fast. It ended in one move. Huang Yuxuan is also a peak late-stage human realm martial artist, but he's not Wang Qiming's match for even one saber. How is this possible? Could it be that the gap between the human realm and the earth realm is really that big? All the students on the field gasped and looked at Wang Qiming in shock. Li Qingfeng and Zhao Lingshan narrowed their eyes and took a deep look at Wang Qiming. Amidst the uproar, the second match began immediately. Gozu reached into the wooden box, groped for a moment, and then took out 2 wooden tags. The second match, Qin Fen versus Qin Chen. Gozu said loudly. What? Everyone was stunned. Is there a mistake? Lin Qian also looked at Qin Chen in astonishment. Everyone focused their attention on Qin Chen and Qin Fen. This was too coincidental, right? Everyone had seen the dispute between the 2 Qin family students earlier, but no one would have expected the two to actually meet. 16 into 8, an eighth of a chance. They actually met. Ha! Qin Chen, if you have the guts, come up on stage. I will let you know what regret is. Qin Fen flew onto the stage and sneered loudly. Qin Chen slowly walked onto the stage, glanced lightly at Gozu, who was acting as if nothing had happened, and sneered in his heart. From the moment Gozu came on stage, he had been prepared. Only he and Gozu knew what was going on, while everyone else thought it was just a coincidence. Slowly walking to face Qin Fen, Qin Chen said lightly, "Later, you will understand that the one who should regret is actually you." Ridiculous. I admit that your strength has improved a lot, but in front of me, you are still just trash. Qin Fen grinned, a look of ferocity flashing in his eyes. He and Qin Chen no longer needed to say anything more. Today, only one of them could continue to stand on the stage. Is that so? Qin Chen said calmly, without any ripples. Hearing this, Qin Fen's brow twitched. Qin Chen's calm expression made him feel a little uneasy. Could this kid really have some trump card? Otherwise, why would he be so calm in front of him? But soon, he threw this thought to the back of his mind. He knew Qin Chen's talent very well. No matter what opportunities he had or what breakthroughs he made, he could not possibly be his opponent. In the past 15 years, Qin Chen had never fought back in the face of his bullying. The Qin family's internal strife, it's really something to look forward to. Little Marquis, who do you think will win? A noble son next to Li Qingfeng laughed playfully. Hard to say. Li Qingfeng frowned. Qin Fen's strength is there, but the Qin Chen seems to have some skills too. Who wins and who loses is possible. Wei Zhen, what do you think? Li Qingfeng knew in his heart that Wei Zhen might know something. Wei Zhen looked at Qin Chen solemnly, a trace of fear in his eyes, and said, Li Qingfeng, if you underestimate Qin Chen, you will definitely regret it. In this battle, Qin Chen will win. Impossible, right? Some of the other students didn't believe it. Wei Zhen, you're exaggerating the Qin Chen too much. Not to mention little Marquis, even I can cripple him with one hand. Another student sneered. Wei Zhen glanced at him, then why didn't you break into the top 16? The student instantly blushed and snorted coldly, that's because I had bad luck. Whether you believe it or not, this time, Qin Fen is going to be unlucky. Wei Zhen said coldly. Li Qingfeng turned his head to look at the field, his brows furrowed. He knew what kind of person Wei Zhen was, so how could he be so afraid of such a young man? Could it be that Qin Chen really has some tricks up his sleeve? Amidst the discussions and speculations of the crowd, the duel commenced. Trash. Kneel down and lick my shoes, and I, as your second brother, might spare your life. Qin Fen walked forward with a sinister smile, his iron fists cracking as he twisted them. The clenched fists emanated an astonishing aura, clanging like two heavy hammers. When a cat catches a mouse, it doesn't kill it immediately but slowly toys with it until it's tormented to death bit by bit. Qin Fen was now enjoying this tormenting process. He wanted to play with Qin Chen until he was driven to despair, satisfying his twisted psyche. Is that so? Unfortunately, even if you kneel down and lick the soles of my feet now, I won't spare you. Qin Chen looked at Qin Fen indifferently. This ignorant person probably didn't realize he was already in deep trouble. Courting death. Qin Chen's expression enraged Qin Fen. With a shift of his feet, Qin Fen instantly crossed 5 or 6 meters, his fist slamming towards Qin Chen with a sinister grin. Boom. The air in front exploded, and a vortex of energy appeared before Qin Chen, engulfing him with a wave-like fist force. Qin Fen's cultivation has improved quite a bit, stronger than Wei Zhen, but still too weak. Facing Qin Fen's fierce attack, Qin Chen accepted it all. His hands moved like plucking a pippa, embracing a semicircle, and he pushed out a palm horizontally. Boom! Violent energy collided with each other, producing an astonishing explosion, and the entire ground seemed to shake. What? In the midst of the swirling dust, Qin Fen's body halted abruptly as if hitting a mountain. A violent tremor ran through his internal organs, and his eyes widened in shock. How could Qin Chen's power be so strong? Overlord Fist. With a roar, Qin Fen's eyes turned ferocious, and the bones in his body crackled. His entire body suddenly expanded, and he punched towards Qin Chen. Boom! A whirlwind shot into the sky, and a level 10 gale swept across the arena, the dust swirling and sweeping out. Petty tricks. Break. Qin Chen pushed out a single palm, seemingly slow but actually fast, colliding with Qin Fen's iron fist. Bang! Violent energy erupted in a circular shape centered on the two, causing the hair of many students below the arena to fly up. Amidst the explosive energy, Qin Chen stood firm, like a boulder, while Qin Fen, unable to withstand the recoil, staggered back 2 steps. This is impossible. Qin Fen's eyes widened. His full-force punch was actually blocked by Qin Chen so easily. Was this a joke? Weak. Too weak. With this level of cultivation, you want me to beg for mercy? Qin Chen clapped his hands, dusted off the dust on the corner of his clothes, and said with a mocking expression, leaving everyone dumbfounded. This kid was too good at showing off. Qin Fen would definitely not be able to stand it. Ah! Hearing this, Qin Chen was indeed enraged, flying into a rage. He roared loudly, bang! His feet stomped hard on the ground, and his iron fists poured out like a raging wave. 13 overlapping wave fist. Bang 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 bang. The fierce fist force exploded the air, shaking the entire arena, and countless fist shadows suddenly appeared in front of Qin Fen, like a tsunami erupting, rolling forward, causing everyone's eardrums to ache and the world to change color. At the contestant area below the stage, a student beside Wei Zhen revealed a look of surprise, then said smugly, Wei Zhen, the Qin Chen you're optimistic about is going to lose this time. The 13 overlapping wave fist is a killing move created by King Qin Dingwu on the battlefield. It is said to be extracted from a profound grade high-level fist technique. Although the grade is only yellow grade high-level, its power is comparable to a profound grade low-level martial skill. Under this martial skill, Qin Fen's fist force will increase by at least 3 times, and Qin Chen will undoubtedly be defeated. That's not necessarily the case. Wei Zhen stared at the stage, his eyes unblinking. He admitted that he couldn't withstand Qin Fen's punch, but the fear in his heart told him that Qin Chen would definitely be able to withstand it. There was no reason, just intuition. In the audience, Qin Yong showed a look of surprise and leaned forward excitedly. Madam, I didn't expect young Master Fen to have mastered the 13 overlapping wave fist. It seems that young Master Fen is destined to win this match. Previously, Qin Chen had repeatedly blocked Qin Fen's attacks, causing Qin Yong to feel a little uneasy. Now that he saw Qin Fen using this martial skill, he was immediately relieved. How can the trash born from that bitch Qin Yuqi compare to Fener? Zhao Feng said with a smile and a sinister tone on her face. In the audience below, Qin Yuqi showed concern in her eyes, extremely nervous. She knew very well how powerful the 13 overlapping wave fist created by her father was. It belonged to the legendary military killing fist, specially used to kill enemies on the battlefield. Once the opponent couldn't resist, the overlapping fist force would be like a flood that had burst its banks, wanton presumptuous, until it blasted the opponent into minced meat. Chenair, don't force yourself. As long as there are green hills, there's no need to worry about firewood. Qin Yuqi clenched her hands and muttered in her mouth. Because of nervousness, her body even leaned forward slightly, as if she was about to rush onto the arena. Apart from experts on the stage who knew the goods also showed solemn expressions and whispered in surprise. If Qin Chen couldn't resist this move, he would either die or be crippled. Qin Chen didn't know Qin Yuqi's worries. To him, although the 13 overlapping wave fist was good, it was still far from enough to hurt him. He just didn't want to defeat Qin Fen all at once, giving the other party hope, and then giving him despair, so that the other party could feel what true collapse was. With a sneer, Qin Chen crossed his fists in front of his chest, like a boulder in a rapid current, resisting Qin Fen's continuous attacks. Bang 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 bang. Successive roars resounded. Under Qin Fen's turbulent attacks, Qin Chen seemed unable to resist each time, but he stubbornly persisted, like a sailboat on the sea, standing firm despite the waves crashing against it. This body technique is subtle to the extreme, definitely a micro-level body technique. Lingwu King Xiaozan gasped, his eyes horrified. Body techniques are divided into 5 levels according to the artistic conception: entry, skilled, exquisite, micro, and perfect. Generally, geniuses of this level are already remarkable if they can reach skilled, but Qin Chen has actually reached the micro level. He has lived for so long, and this is the first time he has seen such a genius. It really is a micro-level body technique. Dean Chu Weiken, who was beside Lingwu King Xiaozan, heard his low cry and also stared intently, so shocked that he almost stood up. Being able to practice body techniques to the micro level at such a young age can no longer be called a genius, but a monster that should not exist in this world. Qin Fen's face was gloomy. At this moment, he had already thrown 10 punches, but the other party still showed no signs of defeat. Qin Chen's terror exceeded his expectations. I don't believe it. With an unwilling roar, Qin Fen pushed the true qi in his body to the extreme, and the last 3 punches were thrown out at the same time, all in one go. Boom! A violent red scorching wave rose from Qin Fen's body at the same time. It was the power of his awakened bloodline. In an instant, the entire arena transformed into a volcanic purgatory, with flame-like energy soaring into the sky, scorching the air with crackling sounds. Die! Qin Chen pounced down like a rock, unstoppable, merging the final 3 punches of the 13 overlap wave fist into a deadly attack against Qin Chen. That's about enough. Qin Chen didn't intend to continue his entanglement with Qin Chen. He took a deep breath, held his hands horizontally in front of his chest, slightly activated the 9-star God Emperor art within his body, and fiercely struck out with a palm. Boom! Facing Qin Fen's continuous 13 punches, Qin Chen ultimately only unleashed 1 palm, the traceless hand forcefully pressing into the violent fiery fist force, emitting a shocking roar. The next moment, the sky full of flames dissipated completely, and the powerful and domineering Qin Fen, like a kite with a broken string, soared into the sky, spitting out a mouthful of blood. I haven't lost. Qin Fen revealed unwillingness, forcefully twisting his body in midair, pouncing down again, like a falcon preying on its food, a desperate strike. Humph! Qin Chen coldly snorted, his hands transforming into palm blades, slashing 3 times towards the midair. Crack! 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 These 3 palms, one struck Qin Fen's left arm, one struck Qin Fen's right arm, and one struck Qin Fen's chest, almost exactly the same as Qin Fen's previous match against Zhang Ying. Amidst the crisp sound of bones breaking, Qin Fen spat out a mouthful of blood into the sky, flying backwards for more than 10 meters in the air before heavily falling onto the arena. He won. Qin Yuqi, who had been extremely nervous beneath the stage, suddenly stood up, a weight lifted from her heart, a smile appearing on her face. How is that possible? Fener, he actually lost. Zhao Feng abruptly stood up, with a crack. The corner of the chair on the other side was also crushed into powder by her, wood chips rustling down. Madam. Qin Yong widened his eyes, equally unable to believe his eyes. On the other side. I knew it. The winner would definitely be Qin Chen. Wei Zhen revealed horror, solemnly looking at Qin Chen, the depths of his eyes filled with endless fear. Beside him, Li Qingfeng's brow furrowed slightly, for the first time regarding Qin Chen seriously. On the arena, Guo Zhu looked at the scene before him in horror, forgetting to announce the results of the match. The plot was completely off script. Shouldn't it be Qin Fen defeating Qin Chen? After a long time, he came back to his senses, announcing with a bitter expression, Qin Chen wins. Qin Chen glanced disdainfully at Qin Fen, who was lying there, a trace of pity flashing in his eyes, and coldly said, those 3 palms just now were to revenge Zhang Ying. Qin Fen, the real trash is actually you. Without the Qin family, you are nothing. Qin Chen's words, like sharp knives, fiercely pierced into Qin Fen's heart, stabbing his heart until it was dripping with blood. No. I haven't lost. How could I possibly lose? The one who should lose is you. Watching Qin Chen's back as he walked off the arena, a trace of resentment flashed in Qin Fen's eyes. He suddenly roared angrily, his legs transforming into 2 poisonous dragons, fiercely kicking towards Qin Chen's back. Qin Chen had crippled Qin Fen's hands, but he hadn't crippled his legs, so his legs still possessed powerful strength. At this time, the martial artists on the stage who saw this scene all changed their expressions. It must be known that the match had already ended, and at this time Qin Chen was facing away from Qin Fen as he walked off the arena. Qin Fen's attack was completely a sneak attack from behind, and judging from the position his legs were kicking and the power they contained. If this kick landed, Qin Chen would undoubtedly die. He completely wanted Qin Chen's life. Stop. Presumptuous. At this moment, Ji Hong and the others' expressions all changed, and Qin Yuqi even abruptly stood up, her eyes revealing panic, about to rush out. But it was too late. As everyone saw this scene, Qin Fen's legs had already arrived at Qin Chen's back. No one had expected that Qin Fen would actually launch a sneak attack after the match ended, making a ruthless move. The only one who could stop him was the referee Guo Zhu, who was close at hand. However, at this time, Guo Zhu seemed to be frightened, without the slightest reaction. Everyone could only watch helplessly as Qin Fen's legs kicked towards Qin Chen's back. Just at this critical moment, Supreme Ancestor Long Fist. As if Qin Chen had anticipated this scene, he turned around with a stroke of divine genius and punched out first, striking Qin Fen's abdomen dantian. Boom! Qin Fen widened his eyes, like a broken cloth bag, flying out at an even faster speed than when he came, and then heavily fell to the ground. My dantian, my chi pool, no. Qin Fen struggled to get up from the ground, immediately letting out a terrified cry, wah, spitting out a mouthful of pitch-black blood into the sky, like a deflated ball, instantly withering down, collapsing on the ground. His chi pool had been directly shattered by Qin Chen's previous punch, becoming a cripple. Qin Chen looked at the grief-stricken Qin Fen, shaking his head with a sneer. The Heavenly Star Academy's Grand Examination competition strictly prohibits crippling people, so Qin Chen deliberately didn't cripple Qin Fen's legs, anticipating whether he would launch a sneak attack. If Qin Fen didn't launch a sneak attack, then this match would end here, but if Qin Fen dared to launch a sneak attack, then Qin Chen could cripple him without inviting any criticism. It could be said that Qin Chen gave Qin Fen a chance for good and evil. But Qin Fen chose evil. He also chose hell. Fenair. From the audience seats, Zhao Feng abruptly stood up, lunging towards the arena. Madam, Qin Yong exclaimed, his figure flickering, also landing on the arena. At this time, Zhao Feng had already helped up Qin Fen, hurriedly taking out a few dragon eye-sized healing pills from her body, feeding them into Qin Fen's mouth. Looking at Qin Fen, who was covered in blood, Zhao Feng's heart was like a knife twisting. Mother, your child's chi pool is crippled. Your child is a cripple. Qin Fen, seeing Zhao Feng, cried helplessly. Ah! Zhao Feng howled miserably, her heart as if dripping blood, the hairpin on her head instantly disheveled, looking at Qin Chen with resentment, roaring angrily, Qin Yong, kill him, kill this bastard. Yes, madam. Qin Yong roared loudly, his figure flickering, already arriving in front of Qin Chen, a palm fiercely chopping down towards the top of Qin Chen's head. Boom! The cultivation of the late-stage peak of the Earth realm was unleashed to the fullest, the tyrannical energy like a vast ocean pressing down on Qin Chen. If this strike landed, even a piece of iron stone would be crushed into powder, without any suspense. The successive situations on the arena caused everyone to be unable to react for a moment. Stop for me. On the podium, the Dean of Heavenly Star Academy, Chu Weiken, flew into a rage, a tyrannical aura suddenly sweeping out from his body, at the same time leaping down. Anger. Furious. Chu Weiken never expected that such a situation would occur in this year's annual Grand Examination. Not only did a student launch a sneak attack after the match ended, but there was also an external expert, killing a student of Heavenly Star Academy in front of everyone. This kind of lawless behavior deeply aroused the anger in Chu Weiken's heart. If they weren't properly punished, did these people really think that the Heavenly Star Academy's Grand Examination was a place for them to flaunt their power? But even faster than Chu Weiken was someone even faster. How dare you hurt young Master Chen? Get out of here. Just as Qin Yong's palm was about to strike Qin Chen's head, a black figure suddenly appeared in front of Qin Chen, meeting Qin Yong's palm with one of its own. Boom! Accompanied by an angry shout, a violent rumble sounded. Qin Yong was sent flying by the black figure's palm, spitting out a mouthful of blood on the spot. He stumbled back dozens of meters before stopping, his right hand, which had been struck, was sore and weak, trembling incessantly. Young Master Chen, are you all right? Afterward, the figure turned around, its face full of concern and respect as it spoke to Qin Chen. It was Liang Yu. Seeing the person who had intervened, everyone present was dumbfounded. Master Liang Yu, what are you? Qin Yong looked astonished, his eyeballs nearly falling to the ground. I'm fine. Qin Chen waved his hand and cupped his fist at Liang Yu, saying, thank you for your help, Master Liang. It was nothing, just a small effort, a small effort. It's good that young Master Chen is all right. Hearing this, Liang Yu felt sweeter than if he had eaten honey. His eyes narrowed into slits with laughter. It seemed that young Master Chen had a pretty good impression of him. He was glad that he had been vigilant when Qin Yong and the others came onto the stage, otherwise, he wouldn't have had such a good opportunity to show himself in front of young Master Chen. Although he thought so in his heart, Liang Yu's expression towards Qin Yong was extremely stern. A terrifying murderous aura, like a mountain, pressed down on Qin Yong. He roared, "Qin Yong, this is the Sky Star Academy's arena. Who gave you the audacity to attack young Master Chen on the stage?" At this moment, Dean Chu Weiken, Dean Ge Hong, and others had also landed on the stage, glaring angrily at Qin Yong and Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng also reacted at this moment, understanding her situation. The monstrous anger in her heart instantly suppressed, she said with some unwillingness, "Everyone, it was my Qin family's people who acted impulsively, but this Qin Chen, in the previous competition, crippled my son's cultivation, making him a cripple from now on. How will you give me an explanation for this matter?" Explanation. You still have the nerve to ask for an explanation. Before Qin Chen could speak, Liang Yu had already shouted angrily, if Qin Fen hadn't been so malicious, launching a sneak attack on young Master Chen after the match, would he have ended up like this? HMPH. In my opinion, it's already merciful of young Master Chen that he didn't kill Qin Fen with one palm. Instead of being grateful for young Master Chen's mercy, you still harbor resentment. As expected, a woman's heart is the most venomous. On the field, Liang Yu's expression was agitated and extremely angry, as if he was the one who had been wronged. You. Zhao Feng stared blankly at Liang Yu. What was going on? Wasn't it said that Liang Yu was extremely hostile towards Qin Chen? Wasn't his previous targeting of the Qin family because Qin Chen had offended him? How could it be now? Zhao Feng's mind was completely muddled for a moment. Chu Weiken and Ge Hong also looked at Liang Yu strangely, their minds full of confusion. As the newly promoted Tier 2 refiner of the weaponry hall, a refining genius in his 30s, Liang Yu's reputation was still extremely strong in the royal capital. But how could such a refiner be so concerned about Qin Chen? That appearance, that expression, was not just like caring for a junior, but rather like a loyal servant protecting his master. The doubts in his heart flashed by. Chu Weiken turned his head to look at Zhao Feng, and snorted coldly, "Liang Yu is right. Although my Sky Star Academy's competition strictly prohibits students from using ruthless means in the competition to cause death or disability, Qin Fen's sneak attack after the competition led to his cultivation being completely destroyed. On the contrary, you are the ones who are disrupting my Sky Star Academy's entrance examination. Are you taking my Sky Star Academy as nothing?" What kind of cultivation was Chu Weiken at? The terrifying aura instantly pressed down like a mountain, making it difficult for Qin Yong and Zhao Feng to breathe, unable to catch their breath. Considering that the matter hasn't caused any serious consequences, you can leave. If there is a next time, I will not spare you lightly. Chu Weiken waved his hand, and a wave of energy swept across Qin Yong's chest, immediately causing Qin Yong's chest ribs to break, and he spat out a mouthful of blood, falling off the stage. Good. Zhao Feng gritted her teeth, staring fiercely at Qin Chen, her eyes filled with a strong resentment, and roared, "Qin Chen, the pain you have inflicted on my son today, in the future, I will repay it to you 100-fold, 1,000-fold. Fener, let's go." Zhao Feng picked up Qin Fen, walked off the stage, and quickly left the square. She was anxious to find an alchemist to treat Qin Fen, vowing in her heart to do everything possible to repair Fener's chi pool. "Qin Chen, are you all right? How do you feel about this handling?" Chu Weiken turned around and looked at Qin Chen with a smile. "Thank you, Dean, for handling this impartially. Qin Chen has no objections to the handling of the Qin family, but..." Qin Chen suddenly looked at Go Zhu. "However, I have some opinions on Instructor Go Zhu." Go Zhu's eyebrows twitched, and he secretly thought that things were not good. Chu Weiken frowned and said, "Go Zhu failed to take action in time earlier, which is indeed a dereliction of duty. As a competition referee and academy instructor, it is absolutely not allowed to drop the ball at a critical moment. Go Zhu, the following competition has nothing to do with you. Go back and give me a good self-criticism." Yes. This subordinate failed to handle the competition well. It is this subordinate's dereliction of duty. Go Zhu hurriedly blamed himself. Qin Chen sneered and said, "Dean Chu Weiken, what I want to say is not that Instructor Go Zhu has neglected his duty, but that instructor Go Zhu colluded with the Qin family to deliberately frame the student, preparing to put the student to death. Go Zhu was shocked and hurriedly said, Qin Chen, it was indeed my failure to react in time just now, which caused you to be a little frightened. I apologize to you here, but what you said about colluding with the Qin family is completely untrue. As an instructor, how could I frame a student like you? No matter how eloquent you are, it is difficult to get rid of your behavior of colluding with the Qin family and wanting to put me to death. Dean Chu, I suggest that instructor Go Zhu be taken down on the spot for investigation. Qin Chen said. Go Zhu's face sank, and seeing that Chu Weiken's face was getting more and more ugly, he hurriedly roared, Qin Chen, what happened earlier was indeed my dereliction of duty, and I will conduct a good self-criticism, but if you continue to talk nonsense, don't blame me for being impolite. Go Zhu looked wronged, his face full of anger. Chu Weiken also frowned and glanced at Qin Chen, feeling that Qin Chen was making a fuss over a molehill. Framing him. What a joke. It was impossible for an instructor from Sky Star Academy to do such a thing. Qin Chen, you can't talk nonsense about some things. You said that instructor Go Zhu framed you, where is the evidence? You can't just say that he drew you and Qin Fen to fight, which means that he colluded with the Qin family and deliberately framed you, right? Vice Dean Ge Hong said in a deep voice from the side. I naturally have evidence. Dean Chu, Vice Dean Ge, as long as you look at the number tags of me and Qin Fen, you will naturally understand the truth. A sneer appeared on the corner of Qin Chen's mouth. Hearing this, Go Zhu's face turned ashen. Dean Chu, you must believe me. How could I possibly frame Qin Chen? It wouldn't benefit me at all. Go Zhu said anxiously. Chu Weiken's face was gloomy. He ignored Go Zhu and said, Ge Hong, bring the lot numbers here. Then, he looked sharply at Qin Chen and said sternly, Qin Chen, if you have no evidence and dare to falsely accuse a mentor of the academy, just for that, I can expel you directly. A terrifying aura suddenly pressed down on Qin Chen, like a raging storm. Facing Chu Weiken's pressure, Qin Chen didn't change color, but said calmly, this student would naturally not falsely accuse a mentor of the academy. At this time, the audience was already in an uproar. This year-end assessment of the Tianxing Academy was a bit too exciting. Not only did the Qin family's internal strife occur, and the Qin mansion's second young master was crippled, but these exciting events have now even led to the academy's mentor colluding with the Qin family to frame a student. This is simply like dropping a bombshell among the crowd. Everyone's gossip fire was burning fiercely, and they were all excited, observing the development of the situation. Seeing Qin Chen's calm expression, not affected by his pressure at all, Chu Weiken's eyes flashed, revealing a look of interest. A student could actually withstand his pressure. Interesting. Before long, Ge Hong brought out the lottery box and poured out the lot numbers inside. Aside, Go Zhu's face was pale, his whole body was drenched in cold sweat, and there was a hint of fear in the depths of his eyes. There were only 16 lot numbers in the lottery box. Qin Fen and Qin Chen's lot numbers were clearly presented in front of Chu Weiken. Just taking a glance, Chu Weiken's gaze instantly turned cold, and he looked at Go Zhu coldly, saying in a cold voice, Go Zhu, what exactly is going on? I don't know, Dean. Go Zhu didn't dare to look at the lot numbers on the ground, nor did he dare to look directly into Chu Weiken's eyes, only saying tremblingly. Ge Hong was stunned. Not understanding what had happened, he carefully stared at the lot numbers on the ground and immediately let out a surprised sound, only to see that the many lot numbers on the ground seemed to be exactly the same, with no difference, but one corner of Qin Chen and Qin Fen's wooden lot numbers had a small dent pressed into them by someone, leaving a mark. Although this mark was very subtle, the person drawing the lot numbers only needed to carefully distinguish it to be able to feel out Qin Chen and Qin Fen's wooden lot numbers from the many wooden pieces in a very short time. Ge Hong's gaze also instantly turned gloomy. Could it be that Go Zhu really colluded with the Qin family, wanting to cripple Qin Chen? If that were the case, then the problem would be serious. This would definitely be an unprecedented major event in the history of Tianxing Academy. The people in the audience could not see the abnormality on the wooden pieces, and at this time, they were all discussing and craning their necks to watch. Gozu, give us an explanation, Ge Hong roared angrily. Vice Dean Ge, this has nothing to do with me at all. The mark on the wooden piece was not made by me at all, and the dent was not pressed by me either. Besides me, there are many mentors who can come into contact with these wooden pieces. It really has nothing to do with me. Gozu shouted in panic. Ge Hong was stunned and exchanged a glance with Chu Weiken, thinking slightly. What Gozu said was not without reason. He was not the only one who could come into contact with the wooden lot numbers. Hehe. Mentor Gozu is really amazing. After these lot numbers were brought up, you didn't even look at them once, and you already knew that Mai and Qin Fen's lot numbers had been marked, and even where the mark was made and how it was made, you knew everything. TSK, this kind of precognition, this ability to open your eyes and tell lies, this student really admires you. In my opinion, it's really a waste of talent for Mentor Gozu to be a small mentor in Tianxing Academy. With your great talent, you should go to those empires on the mainland to be a national advisor, Qin Chen said sarcastically. Chu Weiken's gaze sank. Indeed, Gozu's position was not even as far forward as Ge Hong's. With Ge Hong's cultivation, he had to stare for a long time before he could see the clues, but Gozu basically didn't look at the wooden pieces on the ground, and he actually immediately said that the wooden pieces had been marked, and even where they were marked. If he didn't know in advance, it would be impossible. Gozu opened his mouth, but at this time, he didn't know what to say at all. Good. You actually dared to frame young Master Chen. Tell me, what benefits did the Qin family give you that made you do such a heartless and insane thing? If young Master Chen wasn't lucky, he might have died in your and Qin Fen's hands. So ungrateful and worse than pigs and dogs, are you still worthy of being a mentor? Hearing this, how could Liang Yu not understand what had happened? Anger welled up on his face, and he grabbed Gozu's collar, shaking him angrily. What kind of cultivation did Liang Yu have? Although Gozu was a mentor of Tianxing Academy, he was simply unable to resist. He was shaken until his face turned pale, and the blood in his body surged. Liang Yu, stop! Chu Weiken shouted coldly, and the aura of a fourth-order Xuan level fell on Liang Yu. HMPH. Liang Yu threw Gozu to the ground and snorted angrily at Chu Weiken. Dean Chu, I respect you as a person, but if you don't give young Master Chen an explanation today, I, Liang Yu, will never give up. Looking at Liang Yu's impassioned and angry roar, Chu Weiken and Ge Hong looked at each other. This Liang Yu was an artifact refining master of the artifact hall, but he insisted on getting involved. What was his relationship with Qin Chen? Thinking about it, the anger in Chu Weiken's heart was no less weak than Liang Yu's. He said angrily, Ge Hong, take Gozu down. Give you one day, you must investigate this matter clearly for me. Gozu's legs went weak, and he slumped on the ground, hugging Chu Weiken's calf and crying, Dean, I'm wronged. I'm really wronged. But no one paid attention to him anymore. Ge Hong waved his hand, and two mentors from the Academy's law enforcement office, who had been standing aside, supported Gozu on both sides and carried him down. Qin Chen, if we find out that Gozu is really colluding with the Qin family, I, Chu Weiken, guarantee that I will definitely give you a fair answer, Chu Weiken said seriously. This student believes in the dean. Qin Chen smiled slightly and walked off the stage. Young Master Chen, be careful, Liang Yu said respectfully with a smile. Qin Chen stopped and said, Master Liang Yu, don't you have something to say? Cough cough. No. Liang Yu shook his head like a rattle. I was just indignant at seeing such sinful behavior. That's good. Qin Chen touched his nose, thought for a moment, and said, if there is anything in the future, you can come to the academy to find me. He had completely offended the Qin family today, and Zhao Feng would definitely find trouble with him next. He himself was not afraid, but his mother might be in danger. Since Liang Yu took the initiative to show goodwill, he might as well get in touch. The audience stands were already a hubbub of voices. I never thought that the instructors of Tianxing Academy would be bribed by the Qin family. The Qin family's first madam is truly vicious. That Qin Chen's luck is too good. If he hadn't reacted in time just now, I'm afraid he would have been killed on the spot by Qin Fen. TSK, the grievances of wealthy families are truly as deep as the sea. If the old master Qin Beishan, who is fighting on the battlefield, knew what was happening at home, I wonder what he would think. This matter has become such a big deal this time. Let's see how Marquis Anping, Qin Yuanhong, handles it. On the rostrum, Chu Weiken looked at the uproar in the square, his face as gloomy as water. Everyone. He used his tongue to unleash a thunderous roar, which instantly spread throughout the entire square, causing everyone's eardrums to ache. They stopped the discussions and looked over. Presumably, everyone has seen that there was a bit of an accident in our Qianxing Academy's year-end assessment. Here, I won't say much else, just one sentence. In the following competition, if anyone dares to interfere again, no matter what their status or background, I will kill them without mercy. I will never tolerate it. After speaking, Chu Weiken's sharp gaze swept over everyone present like a sharp blade, and the killing intent in it made everyone turn their heads away, not daring to look directly at him. Everyone was as silent as cicadas in winter. At this moment, everyone knew in their hearts that the dean of the #1 academy in the royal capital, a well-known powerhouse in the Great Qi Kingdom, was truly angry. When a powerhouse is enraged, blood will splatter for 100 steps. Who would dare to provoke him at the height of his anger? After Chu Weiken sat down, the competition continued. In the audience, Liang Yu returned to his seat, looked at where Qin Chen was, and couldn't help but wave his hand excitedly, thinking excitedly, success. This time, he successfully connected with Qin Chen and left a good impression on him. In the future, if he encounters any problems in the art of refining, he won't have trouble finding a solution. Thinking of this, an excited smile unconsciously appeared on Liang Yu's face. Seeing Liang Yu return to his seat and inexplicably gesticulate and giggle foolishly, Prince Kang couldn't help but say, "Master Liang, are you all right?" Cough cough. "I'm fine, what could be wrong with me?" Liang Yu immediately woke up and sat upright. Next, the competition continued. Li Qingfeng and Zhao Lingshan both easily defeated their opponents. The two top-tier late-stage human-level students couldn't even last 2 moves in their hands, causing many students to feel frustrated. In addition to the 2 of them, the remaining 4 winning contestants were Yi Guang, Gan Hao, Ro Qingyuan, and Wei Zhen. These 8 contestants entered the quarterfinals. After a half-hour break, the semi-finals finally began. The first match was Yi Guang against Li Qingfeng. The 2 of them came to the stage at the same time. Li Qingfeng, I won't lose to you easily. Yi Guang was a very handsome young man with long green hair draped behind his head. His appearance was so beautiful that it was almost unreal. He was deeply liked by the girls in the academy. As soon as he appeared, he attracted countless screams from the female students. That depends on whether you have the strength. Li Qingfeng smiled, non-committal. Blazing fire palm. As soon as the competition started, Yi Guang took the lead. He knew that passive defense was definitely not Li Qingfeng's opponent, so he took the initiative to attack in order to gain a chance to win. Scarlet bloodline light bloomed on his body. Yi Guang went all out from the start. Boom boom boom. The scorching palm force turned into 2 patches of red clouds, sweeping towards Li Qingfeng. Break. Li Qingfeng's expression was indifferent. The moment Yi Guang's attack came, he slapped out a palm. With a bang, the tyrannical energy directly pushed aside Yi Guang's palm force and struck towards his chest. Fleeting glimpse. But Yi Guang seemed to have been prepared. His figure soared into the sky in an instant, and he dodged Li Qingfeng's attack like lightning. His body was like a hunting falcon, grabbing towards the back of Li Qingfeng's head. A surprised sound came from the crowd. Until now, Yi Guang was the first student to dodge Li Qingfeng's move, which made everyone present excited. Petty tricks. Li Qingfeng shouted lowly and punched towards his back. With a bang, the fists and palms collided. Yi Guang's figure flew out like a fallen leaf, landing lightly on the ground and taking 2 steps back. It's not over yet. Suppressing the boiling blood in his body, Yi Guang endured the urge to vomit blood and leaned towards Li Qingfeng. His palms flew, and every move and every style was extremely ruthless. He urged his cultivation to the extreme, like a raging wave, never stopping, determined to defeat Li Qingfeng on the spot. But Li Qingfeng was like a rock, standing still no matter how the waves crashed. After the two exchanged several moves, a trace of impatience flashed across Li Qingfeng's face. Yi Guang, blame yourself for not being strong enough. You met me, so be defeated. With a low shout, Li Qingfeng's expression turned cold, and the power in his hands suddenly increased greatly. With two bangs, one punch shattered Yi Guang's defense, and the other punch directly hit his chest, sending Yi Guang flying with a mouthful of blood, unable to get up for a long time. First match of the semi-finals, Li Qingfeng wins. Although there were some minor twists and turns in the battle, the result was not unexpected. Second match, Zhao Lingshan vs Gan Hao. As soon as the voice fell, two figures instantly came to the stage. Zhao Lingshan had a long sword hanging at her waist, wearing a crimson martial uniform, red cloud boots, and a red silk belt around her waist. Her black hair was tied into a ponytail and thrown behind her head. Her skin, which could be broken by a puff of air, had a rosy glow, making her look even more heroic and charming. The audience couldn't help but secretly praise, "What a heroic beauty." Prince Kang sat on the high platform with a smile on his lips, obviously very satisfied with his daughter. Opposite her, Gan Hao was wearing a grey-brown martial robe and had a square face, looking a bit mature and steady. After the competition started, Gan Hao did not make a move immediately, but cupped his hands and said, "Princess Lingshan, please don't show mercy and let me see where the gap between you and me really lies." "As you wish." Clang. Zhao Lingshan drew out the sword at her waist, and the sound of a dragon's roar resounded. Suddenly, countless starlight appeared on the stage. Zhao Lingshan's figure fluttered, as beautiful as an immortal, and countless sword lights flickered frequently, like a dream. Suddenly, a sword energy danced like a spirit snake, instantly appearing in front of Gan Hao, so fast that people couldn't react. Gan Hao was shocked and hurriedly retreated, dodging this sword energy. Immediately, even more sword energy poured down, densely packed and countless. Gan Hao retreated again and again, frequently dealing with it. Finally, after dodging 5 or 6 sword energies, his throat felt a chill. The starlight sword in Zhao Lingshan's hand was placed on his throat. "I lost," Gan Hao said dejectedly, with a wry smile on his face, convinced that he had lost. Throughout the entire competition, he couldn't even make a single effective counterattack. From the first step he retreated, the ending of defeat was already doomed. "Thank you for the concession." Zhao Lingshan sheathed her sword and flew off the stage. Next, the third match began. Wei Zhen vs Qin Chen. The instructor's loud shout resounded through the arena. Below the stage, both Qin Chen and Wei Zhen were stunned. Some of the academy's students also showed strange expressions, all looking at the two of them. The students in the beginner class all knew that Qin Chen's biggest rival in the academy was Wei Zhen, the second son of Marquis Weiqi's mansion. As the young Marquis of Weiqi's family, Wei Zhen was bound to clash with Qin Chen. It's going to be another interesting contest. Below the stage, Wei Zhen glanced at Qin Chen, smiled bitterly, and said to instructor Luo Zhan, "Instructor Luo Zhan, I forfeit." Luo Zhan was taken aback and asked, "Wei Zhen, are you sure you want to forfeit the match?" "I'm sure," Wei Zhen said with a wry smile. He was afraid of Qin Chen. He had seen Qin Fen's fate earlier. He didn't want to end up like Qin Fen, completely crippled. Anyway, he was definitely no match for Qin Chen, so he might as well just admit defeat. Why bother humiliating himself? As for revenge, everything depended on Li Qingfeng. Whoa! Upon hearing this, a clamor erupted from the crowd. What's going on? Why did Wei Zhen just admit defeat? Are you kidding me? Although Qin Chen defeated Qin Fen earlier, Wei Zhen was still a veteran disciple of the advanced class, a powerhouse only one step away from the Earth realm. How could he just admit defeat without even trying? Although Luo Zhan didn't understand the reason, he didn't delve into it. He nodded and said, "All right, now let's proceed with the final match of the top 4, Ro Qingyuan vs Wang Qiming." "Senior Wang Qiming, please be gentle." Ro Qingyuan had a very hot figure, wearing a hollow leather armor. At the age of 17, she already had a curvy figure. she said pitifully to Wang Qiming. The hearts of many male students under the stage were broken. How could any man be able to strike in front of such a beauty? Opposite her, Wang Qiming lowered his head, staring at his toes, seemingly afraid to look at her. Ro Qingyuan was secretly pleased. She kept throwing flirtatious glances, not believing that a commoner like Wang Qiming would be indifferent to her. Those commoner disciples would basically blush when they saw girls in the academy, let alone a sexy beauty like herself. The match begins. Instructor Luo Zhan announced loudly. Senior Wang Qiming, the top 4 spot is really important to Qingyuan. You've already broken through to the Earth realm. Can you give the spot to me? If I can get into the top 4, Qingyuan is willing to repay Senior handsomely. Ro Qingyuan blinked her big eyes, her gentle and sexy voice making people's bones almost melt. Her ambiguous expression made the audience below the stage exclaim that they couldn't take it. No way. Just as everyone was immersed in Ro Qingyuan's beauty, a cold voice suddenly rang out. Swish. A dazzling saber light instantly burst out, slashing towards Ro Qingyuan. Opposite her, Wang Qiming suddenly raised his head, his expression indifferent and expressionless, not at all charmed by Ro Qingyuan. You! Ro Qingyuan cried out, her figure retreating violently. She narrowly dodged the saber light, a few strands of hair falling from her forehead, extremely dangerous. But before she could recover, swish, swish, swish. Countless saber lights swept in like a snowstorm. Puff, 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 puff. Ro Qingyuan's shoulders, legs, and abdomen all spurted blood, leaving more than a dozen fine saber marks. Ah! A mouthful of blood spurted out. Ro Qingyuan's face was pale, her internal organs injured by the saber energy. You lost. Sheathing his saber, Wang Qiming walked off the stage holding his battle saber, as if the battle saber was his lover, leaving Ro Qingyuan with a face full of angry. Everyone was dumbfounded. There was actually such a man in the world who didn't know how to cherish women. Since then, the top 4 students of the Tianxing Academy's year-end exam were born. They were Li Qingfeng, Qin Chen, Zhao Lingshan, and Wang Qiming. Among them, except for Qin Chen, the other 3 were all at the early stage of the Earth realm. Alright, the top 4 contestants have been decided. Everyone, take a rest for a quarter of an hour to recover your true energy and stamina. Next, we will enter the semi-final showdown. Vice Dean Ge shouted loudly. In the arena, Li Qingfeng, Wang Qiming, and Zhao Lingshan all looked at each other, their eyes solemn. In their eyes, the 3 of them, who were all at the Earth realm, were the real opponents. As for Qin Chen, reaching this step was already his limit. Of course, Li Qingfeng and Zhao Lingshan also glanced at Qin Chen for some reason, their eyes containing deep meaning. After that, the 3 of them rested on the spot. As for Qin Chen, he didn't even compete in the previous match, so naturally he didn't need to replenish his true energy. In fact, in the previous top 4 matches, everyone didn't consume much physical strength and true energy, but fighting to this point, it was already the most critical moment, and the remaining people didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. A quarter of an hour passed quickly. The 3 of them opened their eyes at the same time, stood up, and the gazes almost intertwined in an instant, erupting with a strong fighting spirit. Before the match even started, the atmosphere between the 3 of them was already tense. For the 3 of them, what they were going to compete for next was not the top 2, but the first. This was not only related to winning or losing, but also to who was the number 1 genius of Tianxing Academy. Everyone was an Earth realm powerhouse, and a victory had to be determined. As for Qin Chen, he had already been ignored. Luo Zhan came to the stage. As an instructor, he had already felt the gunpowder smell between the contestants from afar, and couldn't help but smile slightly. Only such an atmosphere can cultivate true geniuses. Next is the semi-final. Let's take a look at the contestants in the first semi-final. Luo Zhan reached into the lottery box, stirred it gently, and took out 2 number tag wooden plaques. Zhao Lingshan vs Qin Chen. When Luo Zhan announced the opponents, Zhao Lingshan was stunned and looked at Liang Yu in the audience, her brows slightly furrowed. King Kang was also slightly dazed and said to Liang Yu, "Master Liang, this." He was very clear about how much Liang Yu paid attention to Qin Chen. If Lingshan defeated Qin Chen, would Liang Yu be dissatisfied with Lingshan? Liang Yu was also a little depressed in his heart. The result he least wanted to see was this. Sigh. Liang Yu sighed and said to King Kang, King Kang, don't worry. Although Lingshan can only stop in the top 4, it's only because she met Chen Xiao. If she met someone else, it might not be the case. King Kang's heart sank. Sure enough, Liang Yu was going to interfere with the match. Who exactly is this Qin Chen to him? Although he was full of bitterness, King Kang had to smile bitterly and said, then this king will tell my daughter. Saying that, he was about to stand up. With Lingshan's personality, asking her to admit defeat would probably be more uncomfortable than killing her, but compared to offending Liang Yu, it could only be this way. Your Highness, you are? Liang Yu asked in confusion. Didn't Master Liang want Lingshan to admit defeat? King Kang was also stunned. How could this old man let you do such a thing? Liang Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What I mean is that Lingshan will definitely lose when she meets Chen Xiao. This. Impossible. King Kang was full of confidence in Zhao Lingshan. If you don't believe me, just watch. Liang Yu shook his head and smiled bitterly. Although he didn't believe it in his heart, King Kang still sat down, but he breathed a long sigh of relief in his heart. Qin Chen and Zhao Lingshan arrived at the center of the arena, facing each other. Qin Chen, Master Liang Yu asked me to send his regards. Zhao Lingshan's voice was soft, like an orchid in a secluded valley. She looked at Qin Chen, her face showing curiosity. As a prominent figure in the academy and one of the 4 beauties of the royal capital, Zhao Lingshan was extremely proud. She wouldn't even spare a glance at students like Qin Fen, let alone Qin Chen. However, Master Liang Yu's attitude towards Qin Chen puzzled her greatly. What exactly happened between Qin Chen and her master in the artifact hall that caused such a significant change in her master's attitude later on? It was like a mystery, always lingering in Zhao Lingshan's heart, wrapping around her. And this time, during the academy's grand examination, Qin Chen, who had always been unremarkable and known as a good-for-nothing, unexpectedly displayed unprecedented talent, even defeating Qin Fen from the advanced class, which shocked Zhao Lingshan immensely. Qin Chen seemed to be shrouded in a layer of mist, attracting Zhao Lingshan and making her unable to extricate herself. Thank you, Princess Lingshan, for your message. Qin Chen smiled faintly. But be careful, although Master Liang Yu is my master, I won't show any mercy. I hope you can understand. Zhao Lingshan bit her lip, her eyes firm. She didn't want to give the first place in the grand examination to anyone. Qin Chen smiled and said, since that's the case, then I'll also be serious. I heard that Princess Lingshan is a master of swordsmanship. To show my respect, I'll also use a sword. Immediately, someone from the audience brought up a green steel sword. The crowd was immediately stunned. Could it be that Qin Chen had lost his sense of direction upon seeing a beautiful woman? The previous matches had shown everyone that Qin Chen was clearly a master of fist techniques. Now, he was abandoning his strengths and switching to a sword, which was almost an act of seeking death. Everyone in the entire academy knew that Zhao Lingshan was a master of the sword. Zhao Lingshan was thinking the same thing as everyone else at this moment. If Qin Chen used his fists, he might be able to hold on for a few moves, but with a sword, he wouldn't be able to last even a moment in her hands. She couldn't help but feel slightly disappointed in her heart. So, Qin Chen was also just an ordinary person. Take this. Without wanting to say much more, Zhao Lingshan activated the true energy within her body, and her red martial attire moved without any wind. She thrust her sword towards Qin Chen. Shua. The white sword light instantly arrived before Qin Chen, like a fleeting glimpse of a startled swan. Ding! The green steel sword in Qin Chen's hand had been unsheathed at some point, instantly blocking in front of him. The two swords collided, emitting a crisp sound. A burst of exclamations came from the platform. As the saying goes, an expert reveals himself with a single move. Qin Chen's sword, although seemingly ordinary, was executed perfectly, barely blocking Zhao Lingshan's sword. This made many experts feel suspicious. Could it be that Qin Chen was truly a master of the sword? Zhao Lingshan was also slightly stunned in her heart, but it didn't cause the slightest ripple. In order not to anger her master and to let Qin Chen lose with some dignity, Zhao Lingshan had only used 30% of her power in her previous sword strike. Take another move. After one sword strike failed, Zhao Lingshan wielded her long sword, and dense sword energies swept towards Qin Chen like a tidal wave. Puff, 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 puff. The sword energy was like light, submerging everything. The chilling cold caused the temperature within a radius of several feet to plummet, creating a sense of chilling light approaching the body. Is this what you call showing no mercy? It's a little weak. Qin Chen spoke softly, gripped the long sword tightly in his right hand, and waved it forcefully. Poochie. The sword energy that filled the sky instantly shattered, as if it had been ruthlessly severed from the middle by a heavy saber, scattering like chaotic leaves in the wind. Take my move, sever. Qin Chen gripped the sword with both hands and waved it downwards with force, like an old farmer tilling the land, without any artistic conception or sword techniques. Ha ha, is that what you call a sword technique? Wide and open, this kid is actually using the sword as a saber. Unbearable to watch. The people on the platform exclaimed, each one of them not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Qin Chen's movements were too ugly, not at all like the elegance of using a sword. However, Zhao Lingshan, who was located under the sword's shadow, couldn't laugh at all. As Qin Chen's sword fell, a strong wind suddenly rose in the arena. The air between heaven and earth seemed to be drawn by an invisible force, rapidly pressing down on her body, causing her to feel a stifled breath. Sword intent. This is sword intent. Zhao Lingshan's pupils shrank suddenly, and she was greatly shocked in her heart. As a master of swordsmanship, she could tell at a glance that this was the extremely powerful sword intent within sword techniques. Sword intent. This was a power that even she hadn't fully mastered. How could Qin Chen display it? Starlight radiance. Alarmed, Zhao Lingshan didn't dare to be careless. The true energy within her body circulated with all her strength, and the starlight treasure sword instantly emitted thousands of rays of light, erupting with the light of countless stars, and suddenly clashed with the green steel sword that Qin Chen slashed down. Boom! Instantly, the sound of air exploding rose and fell, and dense sword energies burst out, like raindrops, falling on the hard arena, instantly creating countless small holes. With a gust of wind, smoke and dust filled the air. So strong. Zhao Lingshan gasped in cold air. Although she had launched this move in haste, she had already used the true energy and cultivation of the earth level, but she was still unable to repel Qin Chen. How could she know that although Qin Chen's cultivation was not as good as hers, Qin Chen was cultivating the heaven-defying 9-star God Emperor art, and had opened up all 12 meridians in his body. In terms of true energy intensity and purity alone, he was not inferior to her who had broken through to the earth level, even though she was cultivating the Great Qi Kingdom's extremely top-notch cultivation technique. A mortal guides the way. Knowing that Qin Chen was terrifying, Zhao Lingshan no longer dared to hold back. The sword intent changed, and her martial attire fluttered. She changed from competing in sword energy to competing in sword skills, and her figure became very ethereal. Shua. The sword light cut out a path on the hard stone arena, extending straight towards Qin Chen, with strong energy flying along the way and smoke filling the air. Well done! Qin Chen shouted in a low voice, his figure advancing instead of retreating, slashing in the center of the sword energy before the sword energy could block him, cutting off the source of the sword energy's power. Bang! The terrifying sword energy had not yet fully formed when it was strangled by Qin Chen in its cradle. How did he know the flaw in my immortal guides the way? The shock in Zhao Lingshan's heart was like a raging wave. Immortal guides the way required an extremely long accumulation of energy. It only needed to be cut off before the sword energy was completely formed to solve the problem once and for all. Ordinary people didn't know this. If they only knew how to dodge, once the sword energy was completely formed, its power would increase sharply, and power at the same level would not be able to resist it at all, and they could only hatefully die under the sword. This set of sword techniques was the secret technique of Kang Wangfu and had never been circulated outside. How could Qin Chen know it? Zhao Lingshan didn't know how sharp Qin Chen's vision was. Zhao Lingshan's sword techniques were considered exquisite in the Great Qi Kingdom, but in the martial domain, they could only be considered second-rate garbage. Qin Chen could see the flaws in such sword techniques at a glance. In shock, Zhao Lingshan had no time to react, only feeling a blur in front of her eyes, and a sword light suddenly appeared in front of her. It was Qin Chen's sword tip. The sharp and fierce sword light almost instantly reached Zhao Lingshan's eyes. Above her brow, she could even feel the coldness of the sword energy, wanting to penetrate her head. Not good. Zhao Lingshan didn't expect that in her moment of distraction, Qin Chen would seize the opportunity and launch a fatal move, leaving her with no way to avoid it, and she was about to die by the sword. Bloodline awakening. Shadow shift. Zhao Lingshan shouted, and a blue light suddenly rose from her body, her speed soaring in an instant, dodging at the last moment. A few strands of hair fell from her forehead, the hair from her bangs. Poof! Qin Chen's long sword struck the ground behind Zhao Lingshan, leaving a sword mark nearly a foot long. That sword was close. Princess Lingshan almost lost. How did Princess Lingshan's speed suddenly increase by a fold? It's her bloodline, the third-grade frost bloodline. The crowd exclaimed, everyone stunned, almost unable to believe their eyes. They all thought it would be a one-sided match, and the outcome would be decided in a moment, but the intensity on the field completely exceeded their expectations. Qin Chen and Zhao Lingshan fought back and forth, evenly matched. If Zhao Lingshan hadn't reacted in time and activated her bloodline, she might have even been defeated. Hiss. At this moment, gasps of cold air could be heard from the field. Although they knew Qin Chen was strong, how could he be so strong that he could gain the upper hand even in a cross-level battle? And he was even using Zhao Lingshan's best swordsmanship. You are very strong. I underestimated you just now, but that won't happen next. This is my third-grade bloodline, frost bloodline. Be careful next. A cold voice sounded. Zhao Lingshan's eyes were solemn, and an icy aura filled her body, with snowflakes falling. Whoosh! She raised the star brilliance sword, the tip of the sword pointing diagonally forward. The 4-foot 3-inch long and 1-inch 1-point wide blade shimmered with brilliance, turning a ghostly blue, with a chilling aura. Frosty winter. With the emergence of the third-grade bloodline, Zhao Lingshan's aura greatly increased. Snowflakes danced wildly on the stage, exuding a pressing chill, as if to freeze the world. Qin Chen retreated, his figure retreating sharply. Countless sword lights fell at his feet. Each sword light was an icicle, eventually forming an icy path, constantly spreading, but always a few feet away from Qin Chen's body. It's useless, treading snow to find plum blossoms. Zhao Lingshan pressed on, the speed of her sword energy suddenly accelerating, forming an encirclement, approaching Qin Chen from all directions, and finally surrounding Qin Chen, leaving him nowhere to hide. You've lost. Zhao Lingshan shouted, confidently sweeping her sword towards Qin Chen in the circle. Not necessarily. In the next moment, Qin Chen's body leaped high, soaring into the sky, avoiding the sword light. No matter how you dodge, the outcome will be the same. Zhao Lingshan took a deep breath, the tip of her sword spitting out a chilling aura, forming a training of nearly 10 feet long, slashing towards Qin Chen in midair. At this time, Qin Chen was in midair, with no way to avoid it. Not good. After releasing the sword, Zhao Lingshan was shocked. This sword contained her Earth-level true energy, plus the power of the third-grade bloodline. It was her all-out strike. How could Qin Chen, a human-level martial artist, be able to resist it? But the sword energy had been released and could not be retracted. Zhao Lingshan could only widen her horrified and regretful eyes, watching the sword energy burst out, unstoppable. Chenair. Qin Yuqi was shocked and stood up subconsciously. Well done. Just as Qin Chen was about to be hit by the sword light, the situation on the field changed again. Whoosh. In midair, Qin Chen was not surprised at all. Instead, he laughed loudly. In an instant, the long sword in his hand suddenly slashed out several times. Ding ding ding, each sword struck the same spot on the icy sword energy. Because the sword was too fast, everyone only had time to hear a sword cry. Bang! In the next moment, the icy sword energy containing Zhao Lingshan's full strike shattered into pieces, turning into a sky of ice and snow and starlight, turning the arena into a dreamlike place. How could this be? How could my full strike be broken by Qin Chen? Zhao Lingshan widened her eyes and said incredulously. Too strong, 3 swords in an instant, all slashing at the same spot, using continuous shock force to shatter Zhao Lingshan's attack. Unbelievable. Is it 4 swords? Why do I feel like it's 6 swords? Everyone saw a different number of swords, as if in a dream. The faint smile on Li Qingfeng's face suddenly froze, becoming solemn, his eyes staring at Qin Chen. Wang Qiming, who had always been expressionless, also had bulging eyes, with a sharp light shooting out from his eyes. It's 7 swords in total. On the rostrum, Lingwu King Xiao Zan's eyes burst out with a gleam, and he almost stood up. After a long time, he exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and murmured. 7 swords were slashed in an instant, and they were all slashed at the same point on the rapidly slashing sword light. Such eyesight is amazing. Is this really just a human-level student? Xiao Zan and Chu Weiken looked at each other, their eyes filled with shock. Whoosh! On the arena, Zhao Lingshan was also in shock. When she came back to her senses, her neck felt cold, and Qin Chen's Qinggang sword was already on her neck. Silently, she didn't even know when it appeared. You've lost, Qin Chen said lightly. Zhao Lingshan looked at Qin Chen in front of her, who was calm and breezy, and then looked at the star brilliance sword in her hand, and said bitterly, I lost. Even her strongest move was broken by Qin Chen. There was no point in continuing the fight. Tell me, did you use your full strength? Zhao Lingshan asked unwillingly, looking at Qin Chen. This young man was becoming more and more mysterious in her heart. For some reason, she had a feeling that Qin Chen had not used his full strength at all. Yes, or no. Qin Chen gave an ambiguous answer. Then, he returned his sword to its sheath and walked off the arena. But Zhao Lingshan seemed to have gotten the answer and showed a relieved smile. She was defeated, but she was convinced of her defeat. When the battle ended, everyone had not yet recovered from the shock. A martial artist at the early stage of the Earth level, a 3rd-grade bloodline awakener, was actually defeated by a martial artist at the late stage of the human level, and the other party had not even used his bloodline. What exactly happened? Many people didn't even understand how Zhao Lingshan lost. Only after this battle did no one dare to underestimate Qin Chen again. This seemingly unremarkable young man, a joke in the academy, was like a dark horse in this year-end exam, strong killing his way out, catching people off guard. On the high platform, Prince Kang looked bitterly at Liang Yu and said, Master Liang, how did you see that my daughter is not as good as Qin Chen? Liang Yu shook his head, completely calm, and said nothing. Prince Kang didn't know that at this time, Liang Yu's heart was also like a stormy sea, unable to calm down for a long time. The entire plaza erupted in an uproar. Even Luo Zan, the instructor overseeing the competition, was unable to calm down for a long time. After a good while, he finally regained his senses and stepped onto the arena. Everyone, we have just witnessed an extremely exciting match. To be honest, even I am filled with emotion. But next, we will face an equally stunning match, which is the second match of the semi-finals, Li Qingfeng versus Wang Qiming. In the contestant area, Li Qingfeng and Wang Qiming calmed the shock in their hearts before simultaneously raising their heads, staring intently at each other, and walking towards the arena. Whoosh, whoosh. 2 figures, like 2 bolts of lightning, landed in the center of the arena, one ethereal, the other steady, both more terrifying than many veteran Earth realm experts, causing exclamations of surprise. The 2 stood 10 meters apart on the arena, staring at each other coldly. In today's match, you are destined to lose, Li Qingfeng said slowly, putting on his gloves. The dark gloves gleamed with a cold metallic luster under the sunlight, full of power. Wang Qiming said indifferently, who wins and who loses, that's not necessarily the case. Then you can try. With that said, bang! Li Qingfeng's right foot slammed into the ground, the rock beneath him exploded, and his figure suddenly transformed into a phantom, instantly appearing in front of Wang Qiming, a fist blasting towards his head. Fast. Unimaginably fast. Everyone only felt a blur before their eyes, and Li Qingfeng's attack had already appeared in front of Wang Qiming, the powerful fist force enveloping his body, like a level 10 tsunami, crashing head-on. Good fist technique, but not fast enough. A cold voice rang out from the fierce wind. Clang! As if a thunderous metallic clang echoed through the heavens and earth, a white light flashed, and Wang Qiming's saber had already been unsheathed at some point. like a bolt of white silk, blocking in front of him, barely slashing onto Li Qingfeng's fist. Boom! Crack! A violent roar suddenly erupted between the two, the entire earth seemed to tremble, and spider web-like cracks spread across the arena beneath their feet. A terrifying force shot into the sky, soaring straight into the clouds. Bang! 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 The two rapidly flashed on the stage, attacking frantically, exchanging dozens of blows in the blink of an eye, the speed so fast that people couldn't react. So fast. Too fast. Is this still the assessment for Tianxing Academy students? Why do I feel like two martial arts experts are clashing? Terrifying. Too terrifying. Clang. 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 Fists and sabers constantly collided. The two fought from one side of the arena to the other, from the ground to midair, swiftly shifting and maneuvering, dazzling and overwhelming. Lone Peak Saber Technique. Wang Qiming roared angrily. The frenzied saber light danced into a ball of white light, impenetrable, enveloping Li Qingfeng within it. The dense saber light was like a series of lone peaks, displaying aloofness and grandeur, unstoppable. Crack, 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 crack. Countless cracks spread across the ground, because it couldn't withstand the pressure of the saber energy. Even the saber energy was like this, so one could imagine what kind of terrifying attack Li Qingfeng, located in the center of the saber light, would endure. In the saber light, Li Qingfeng's figure was blurred, like a withered leaf in the wind, causing people to involuntarily break out in a cold sweat. Suddenly, Tianwu fist, mountain-splitting strike. A muffled roar rang out. Boom! The overwhelming saber light exploded, and Li Qingfeng stepped out of the saber energy. His footsteps were steady, his face was cold, his eyes were as bright as the stars in the night sky. With each step he took, his momentum increased by 1 point, and his dark iron fists blasted out one after another. Bang! 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 The saber light that Wang Qiming unleashed shattered one after another, fragile and vulnerable. Damn it! Wang Qiming's eyes grew colder, the saber light became even more fierce. Every slash released a shocking radiance that soared into the sky. But Li Qingfeng was no ordinary person. As the descendant of a noble family, he had abundant resources and had long since consolidated his Earth realm true Qi. Moreover, he cultivated the Great Qi Kingdom's top-tier cultivation technique, which was thick, profound, and endless. No matter how fierce and sharp Wang Qiming's attacks were, they couldn't stop his advance. What was even more despairing was his expression, calm and indifferent, confident, as if he hadn't used his full strength. Boom! Stepping in front of Wang Qiming, Li Qingfeng unleashed a punch, the black fist wind like a tornado soaring into the sky. With a soft tearing sound, the clothes on Wang Qiming's body were torn, revealing his lean and muscular physique. On his lean body, dense scars were scattered all over. There were saber marks, sword marks, and also the claw marks of wild beasts. Each one was moving, causing people to exclaim in surprise. Those dense scars, hideous and terrifying, made people dare not believe how much pain he had endured. He was just a student of Tianxing Academy, a 17-year-old youth. But the scars on his body were comparable to a battle-hardened veteran, an adult martial artist who had experienced life and death. Only then did everyone remember Wang Qiming's identity, a commoner, the most humble commoner in the Great Qi Kingdom. From a commoner at the bottom of society to the top genius of the capital's first academy, Tianxing Academy, the price Wang Qiming had to pay was 10 times, 100 times that of those aristocratic children. Suddenly, at this moment on the stage, the situation changed again. Li Qingfeng's fist slammed into the saber in Wang Qiming's hand. Wang Qiming was instantly blasted away by more than 10 meters. His feet scraped desperately against the ground, barely managing to stabilize his figure, dragging 2 clear marks across the hard rock arena. A trace of blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. Is that all the strength you have? Hey, a commoner is ultimately just a commoner. No matter how hard you try, you can't escape the fate of failure. This world belongs to the nobles. A dog can never become one of the upper class. Li Qingfeng spoke lightly, his eyes cold, looking down at Wang Qiming, the mockery at the corner of his mouth undisguised. Silence. The arena was as silent as death. No one had expected this match to be like this. Li Qingfeng's words pierced into everyone's ears, causing many commoner children to clench their fists, their faces flushed red. But they had to admit that what Li Qingfeng said was correct. It was too difficult for a commoner to become one of the upper class. Even a genius like Wang Qiming, once he graduated from the academy, would only be able to become a servant of the powerful if he wanted to obtain resources for cultivation. Of course, there was another path, which was to venture into the dangerous and blood-beast-filled jungles. The mortality rate of this path was extremely high. 99% of people died before becoming strong, becoming food for the blood beasts. This world was inherently divided into classes, cruel and incomparable. Put away your arrogance, I haven't lost yet. Wiping away the blood from the corner of his mouth, Wang Qiming's eyes were unprecedentedly aloof, like a lone wolf. I endured so much pain, practiced my saber for 10 hours every day, even slept with my saber in my arms, went to the wilderness to fight and risk my life again and again, all for the sake of defying fate and becoming a true powerhouse. I will let you understand that people are not born noble, and true powerhouses can rise from the common grass. Wang Qiming said word by word, his aloof and loud voice resounding throughout the entire plaza. This was the most he had spoken since the end-of-year assessment until now, but it deeply shocked everyone's hearts. Even the spirit marshal King Xiao Zhan couldn't help but be moved by it. From Wang Qiming's body, he seemed to see himself when he was young. Saying so much won't change your fate of defeat. Li Qingfeng sneered. Whoosh asterisk. His figure suddenly appeared in front of Wang Qiming, and he punched towards Wang Qiming. Heavenly tyrant fist, mountain collapse and earth shattering. Rumble. The violent fist force swept across everything, instantly engulfing Wang Qiming. The terrifying power bombarded Wang Qiming, forcing him to retreat continuously. The robes on his body were constantly torn, and his figure retreated madly. Blood splattered from his mouth, but the light in his eyes grew brighter with each step he took backward. Finally, after retreating 7 or 8 steps, Wang Qiming's aura reached its peak. Boom! He took a deep breath, and the robes on his body instantly shattered. A faint azure halo rose from his body, which was the power of the bloodline within him. Grasping the battle blade tightly, Wang Qiming's eyes were bloodshot, and he slashed down with all his might. Apex slash. Boom. As this blade fell, the air in front of him exploded. The sharp aura was like a mountain pressing down horizontally, suppressing Li Qingfeng to death. The thick aura seemed to split the heavens and the earth. On the rostrum, Xiao Zhan and Chu Weiken's eyes lit up, and they were so shocked that they almost stood up instantly. What a terrifying blade aura! Combined with the power of the bloodline, it almost attracted the power of heaven and earth, Xiao Zhan exclaimed. Chu Weiken said with a solemn gaze, a natural swordsman. This person is a natural swordsman. Xiao Zhan sighed. If this child continues to grow, he may not be able to comprehend the intent of the sword. Just this one slash, even a peak mid-stage Earth Realm martial artist may not be able to block it. I wonder how Li Qingfeng will respond. Sword intent. Chu Weiken gasped. Sword intent was ethereal and elusive. It could never be unleashed just by having profound cultivation. Without talent, everything was nonsense. On the arena, Li Qingfeng's expression also changed under Wang Qiming's slash. His always indifferent gaze suddenly became fierce. The intense blade energy made it difficult for him to breathe, and the protective true energy on his body crackled. He straddled his feet, and the true energy in his body frantically gathered on his right fist. Being able to force me to use this move means you have no regrets in defeat. Heavenly collapse. Boom. Along with Li Qingfeng's roar, his right fist slammed out, hitting Wang Qiming's battle blade. The ear-piercing roar shook everyone's eardrums. The entire arena shook violently, stirring up a sky full of smoke and dust, covering everyone's sight. The figures of the two could not be seen, and no one knew what exactly happened inside. After a slight pause, PFFT, a figure flew out of the smoke and dust, spitting out a mouthful of blood into the sky. He fell from the sky and was about to kneel on the ground, but he suddenly propped himself up on the ground with his battle blade. His legs were bent, and he desperately tried not to kneel down. It was Wang Qiming. He stood up staggeringly and was about to fight again, but he spat out a mouthful of blood, and he no longer had the strength to fight. On the opposite side, Li Qingfeng slowly walked out of the smoke and dust. Apart from being a little dirty, he had almost no external injuries, like an invincible god. Wow. The audience burst into a shocking roar. I said, you will undoubtedly lose this match. Ants are still ants. Li Qingfeng slowly walked up to Wang Qiming and looked down at Wang Qiming with a condescending attitude. It's just a win or loss. What's so great about it? Next time, I will definitely defeat you. The defeated Wang Qiming did not show any decadence. On the contrary, his fighting spirit became more intense. Wang Qiming's unyielding spirit was exactly what Li Qingfeng hated the most. He sneered, your starting point is not as good as mine. In terms of resources, I will always have more than you. In terms of cultivation techniques, you can't compare to me either. How can you surpass me? The gap between you will only get bigger and bigger. Then just watch. Wang Qiming stood up and did not accept the support of the academy instructor. Instead, he walked off the arena step by step, each step seeming to exhaust all his strength. Below the stage, Qin Chen was slightly moved. A genius of Wang Qiming's level would be shocking in the great Qi nation, but it was very common in the martial domain where geniuses gathered. However, his firm will was enough to surpass most people even in the supreme martial domain. If this child can grow up, his future achievements will definitely be extraordinary. Whether a genius can become a strong person depends not only on talent but also on will, which is equally important and indispensable. Wang Qiming has been defeated. It seems that the champion is destined to be young Marquis Li Qingfeng. Yes, Li Qingfeng is the eldest son of Marquis Wuan. His cultivation techniques, bloodline, martial skills, and talent are all top-notch in our great Qi nation. How can others compare to him? Don't forget, there's also Qin Chen. I'm not very optimistic about Qin Chen. Qin Chen is terrifying, but after all, he rose too late, and his level is also one level lower than Li Qingfeng. This one level is a chasm that cannot be easily crossed. That's right. Qin Chen is still too young. In another year, when he breaks through to the Earth realm, the result of the competition may not be certain, but now, he cannot be Li Qingfeng's opponent. Alas, what a pity. In the audience, everyone discussed as much as they wanted, expressing their own views. On the arena, instructor Luo Zhan walked up excitedly. Being able to see such a wonderful competition, as an instructor of the Sky Star Academy, he also had glory on his face. Now, the semi-finals have ended. The winners are Qin Chen and Li Qingfeng. Next, the two of them will compete for the title of first place. The winner will become the #1 genius of Sky Star Academy this year. In addition, I also want to tell all the participating students a good news. This year-end exam, in addition to the rewards given by our Sky Star Academy, the royal family will commend the top 8 players, especially the top 4 players, who will receive unprecedented rewards. To be honest, even I am very envious of this reward. Okay, now let the 2 players rest for a quarter of an hour, and we will conduct the competition for the first place. Instructor Luo Zhan's words caused a lot of discussion among the people on the field, especially the players who won the top 8, who were extremely excited. In addition to the Academy's rewards, this year-end exam actually had extra rewards from the royal family, which was really unexpected. The rewards for the top 4 were even more speculative, and the rewards that even Luo Zhan envied were definitely not something that ordinary things could do. What exactly would it be? Below the stage, Li Qingfeng took out a few pills full of essence and swallowed them into his body to quickly recover the consumed true energy. Seeing those pills, many students around showed envious expressions. These pills were full and round, and the fragrance was overflowing. They were obviously second-grade pills, each worth at least several thousand silver coins. Li Qingfeng swallowed them so casually. How could ordinary people afford it? Even some powerful families could not afford it. Only a powerful minister like Marquis Wuan could have such a strong financial strength. As the pills entered his abdomen, the rich medicinal power quickly replenished Li Qingfeng's lost true energy. Before long, the true energy in Li Qingfeng's body was once again full. He opened his eyes and glanced coldly at Qin Chen not far away. He sneered, Qin Chen. A dark horse that has risen sharply. Let me see, what ability do you have that makes Wei Zhen so afraid of you? Don't be a silver spearhead with a wax head, good looking but not useful. A quarter of an hour passed quickly. Now, the final of the year-end exam begins. Please invite the 2 students to the stage. Luo Zhan came to the stage and shouted loudly. Whoosh! A black shadow flashed, Li Qingfeng's figure swayed, and he instantly appeared in the center of the arena. On the other side, Qin Chen slowly stood up and walked onto the arena step by step. Chen Xiao, go for it! Lin Tian and Zhang Ying said excitedly, their expressions unusually nervous and excited, as if they were the ones participating in the competition. In the arena, Qin Chen and Li Qingfeng stood facing each other. Li Qingfeng slowly put on his gloves and said, I didn't expect that the last battle with me would be with you. It really surprised me, and at the same time, it disappointed me. With your cultivation, it is impossible to win. Li Qingfeng shook his head. Dealing with a late-stage human-level martial artist couldn't arouse any excitement in him. In his eyes, martial artists below the Earth level were not worthy of fighting him. Cultivation is not everything, Qin Chen said lightly. Hey, seeing that you can be considered a genius, it is true that cultivation is not everything in front of you for ordinary martial artists, but unfortunately, you met me. Fighting beyond your level doesn't exist in front of me. Indeed, there are many martial artists in the world who can fight beyond their level, but Li Qingfeng doesn't think that anyone can fight beyond their level in front of him. Qin Chen smiled nonchalantly. Since you think so, then let's begin. Li Qingfeng glanced at him lightly and said, where is your sword? The battle with Zhao Lingshan made everyone know that Qin Chen's most powerful skill was actually swordsmanship. To deal with you, why use a sword? Arrogant. Li Qingfeng was irritated by Qin Chen's tone. He was already an arrogant person, but unexpectedly, Qin Chen was even more arrogant in front of him. Alright. 10 moves to defeat you. Heavenly Tyrant Fist, Mountain-Splitting Strike. With a roar, Li Qingfeng didn't hold back and immediately unleashed the powerful Heavenly Tyrant Fist technique. The violent fist force swept out, instantly enveloping Qin Chen. Don't look at his arrogant attitude before fighting, seeming very arrogant, but in fact, he is extremely vigilant in his heart and never underestimates anyone, knowing the principle that a lion uses its full strength even when hunting a rabbit. What's more, Qin Chen, who can defeat Zhao Lingshan, is not a rabbit at all. Good. Li Qingfeng's fist technique was very terrifying. With one punch, the violent fist force enveloped Qin Chen's body, and it was useless to dodge in any direction. Such a fist technique was enough to make even a late-stage Earth-level expert take it seriously, but in Qin Chen's eyes, it was full of flaws. If he wanted to, he had at least 10 ways to dodge this punch, but he didn't, but raised his right hand and blasted over with the same violent posture. Bang! 2 iron fists collided in the void, and a strong fist force impacted, as if a level 10 gale was blowing in the arena. The violent wind could almost blow people into the sky. In the gale, the two exchanged punches, their feet motionless, evenly matched. What? Li Qingfeng's eyes widened all of a sudden. Qin Chen actually blocked his punch, and also with fist techniques. How is this possible? On the other side, Qin Chen nodded slightly. Li Qingfeng's punch has a full 25 horsepower. As expected, after breaking through to the Earth level, the opponent's advantage is very obvious. In terms of strength alone, Qin Chen and Li Qingfeng were almost evenly matched. This body is still a little weak in terms of strength. Qin Chen sighed inwardly. If anyone heard his thoughts at this moment, they would definitely be depressed and burst into abuse. Generally, a late-stage peak human level only has 10 horsepower, and an Earth level only has 20 horsepower, and Qin Chen had only just broken through to the late-stage human level for a day, and had increased from 20 horsepower to 25 horsepower, and he still felt it wasn't enough. Take this punch from me again. Li Qingfeng was really furious. Qin Chen taking his fist technique made him feel not only shock, but also more of humiliation. Heavenly Tyrant Fist, Raging Waves. In an instant, Li Qingfeng threw out dozens of punches. Everywhere in the arena were towering fist shadows, and even the figures could not be seen clearly. Well done. Qin Chen laughed loudly and greeted him in the same posture. Bang 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 bang. Iron fists collided with iron fists, sending out violent roars. The fist energy swept out, shaking countless cracks in the ground. Smoke and stone chips filled the air, obscuring the figures of the two. Marquis Wuan was famous for his fist techniques, so Li Qingfeng had received the best fist technique guidance since he was a child. His iron fists had been soaked in medicinal liquid every day since he was an infant. The endurance of his fists to strength was more than twice that of equal martial artists, and his toughness and destructive power were also stronger. At this time, when he used his full strength, only the sky full of fist shadows could be seen, which could not be captured by the naked eye at all. Although Qin Chen had not experienced these improvements, how powerful was his vision? Even the strongest fist techniques of the Great Qi Kingdom were full of flaws in front of him. In addition, with the powerful true energy of the nine-star God Emperor art, he was not afraid of his opponent at all. In the smoke and dust, Qin Chen's double fists attacked violently, using the crouching tiger fist. His body was like a fierce tiger descending the mountain, his aura was fierce, and he was like a crane standing among chickens, standing alone and unrestrained. The two punched each other frantically, fighting from the center of the arena to one side, and from one side to the other. The fierce confrontation shocked the students present, and they stared blankly at the stage, for fear of missing a wonderful moment. On the high platform seats, many dignitaries of the royal capital also took a breath of cold air. It's unbelievable. Is this still the Tianxing Academy's student examination? It's simply two top Earth-level martial artists who have experienced life and death fighting. The waves behind the Yangtze River push the waves forward. When these two grow up, they will definitely become the top powerhouses of my Great Qi Kingdom. Especially that Qin Chen, using the most basic crouching tiger fist, he has actually fought to a draw with the son of Marquis Wuan, who is known for his fist techniques. This is simply unbelievable. Yes. And the cultivation levels of the two are still one level apart. This is really. Everyone really couldn't imagine how Qin Chen could fight to a draw with Li Qingfeng. Whether it was cultivation, techniques, or martial skills, Li Qingfeng was already the pinnacle of the younger generation. But Qin Chen, everyone could only sigh that evildoers could not be measured by common sense. Bang bang bang. The shock of the crowd did not affect the fight between the two. The two exchanged blows frantically, using every strike to the extreme. Is this the top genius of the Great Qi Kingdom? So, as expected, it's located in a remote area, and the development of martial arts cannot be compared with the martial domain. No one knew that Qin Chen was still analyzing Li Qingfeng's strength in the process of fighting. Damn it! Dare to underestimate me, one punch will defeat you. Seeing that Qin Chen was still distracted, Li Qingfeng was suddenly furious. He jumped out of the battlefield, rubbed his feet hard on the ground, and the clothes on his body fluttered without wind. His right fist suddenly swelled in a circle. Heaven collapse. The terrifying iron fist was like a meteor falling to the ground, blasting towards Qin Chen violently. From the surrounding fierce airflow, one could feel that the power of Li Qingfeng's punch had almost doubled. Under the terrifying power of the fist, Qin Chen remained expressionless and said coldly, 10 moves have passed, and another punch. Hey. Having understood Li Qingfeng's strength, Qin Chen lost the desire to continue fighting. He activated the 9-star God Emperor art, and powerful true energy instantly gathered in his right hand. The blood and energy within his body surged, and his aura suddenly soared. He threw a punch. Bang! The arena beneath their feet shattered simultaneously, tearing open a huge gash. After a brief moment of stillness, Li Qingfeng's face turned from red to white, and with a bang, he flew backward. In midair, he struggled to regain his balance and landed more than 10 meters away. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but instead, he spat out a mouthful of blood. What? Everyone below the stage was stunned and stood up, especially Wang Qiming, who was utterly shocked. Just now, he had been defeated by Li Qingfeng's punch. He knew clearly just how terrifying the power contained within Li Qingfeng's punch was, yet Qin Chen, a late-stage human realm martial artist, had actually blocked it. Not only that, but he had even injured Li Qingfeng. Impossible. Every martial artist's physical strength has a limit. I have been soaking in medicinal liquids since I was young to train my fists to this extent, and I'm even wearing gauntlets. You have nothing, so how can you keep up with me? Li Qingfeng's fists trembled slightly as he spoke with a ferocious expression. At this moment, Li Qingfeng no longer possessed the suave and refined demeanor he had at the beginning. He was like an enraged wolf, his eyes gleaming with malice. Qin Chen said calmly, "My physical strength in my fists is indeed inferior to yours, but a fist fight isn't just about whose fist is harder or whose strength is greater." The crowd below the stage was stunned, each of them confused. In a fistfight, wasn't it precisely those things that mattered? He's right. Besides strength and hardness, fist techniques also involve skill and intent. On the platform, Spirit Marshal King Xiao exhaled a heavy breath and said in a deep voice, "Skill. Intent." The other martial artists still felt somewhat unclear. Spirit Marshal King Xiao explained, "In the battle between Qin Chen and Li Qingfeng just now, on the surface, their strengths were equal, but in reality, Qin Chen's control over his own strength was extremely precise. Every time he threw a punch, he unleashed the power of all the muscles in his body. Moreover, when he threw a punch, besides being fierce, there was also a gentle force, achieving a balance of hardness and softness. In other words, on the surface, it looked like they both unleashed 25 horsepower, but in reality, the power Qin Chen truly unleashed was perhaps only 20 horsepower, which means he retained some strength. Furthermore, the impact of each of Li Qingfeng's punches was cleverly neutralized by Qin Chen's gentle force. In this way, the damage Qin Chen's arm suffered was actually only half, or even less, of the actual damage. Xiao exclaimed, "His control over strength is so precise that even I am shocked. You must know that even most Heaven Realm martial artists may not be able to achieve this level of control. To truly achieve what Qin Chen has done, one must at least be a profound realm expert." Hiss. A series of gasps of cold air immediately rang out around the platform. If someone else had said this, the crowd might still have doubts, but now that the famous Spirit Marshal King of the Great Qi Kingdom had said it, naturally no one dared to doubt the truth of his words. Qin Chen's strength is actually this strong. But I heard that he had never been able to awaken his bloodline before. He was clearly a good-for-nothing, so why has he suddenly become so strong? Could it be that he has been pretending to be weak all along? The Qin family is really lucky. A few years ago, they produced a Qin Feng, and now they have produced a Qin Chen. The Dingwu King lineage is simply enviable. The crowd's exclamations of surprise entered Li Qingfeng's ears, making him feel as if he were being pricked by needles. "No. I am the #1 genius of Heavenly Star Academy. This glory should belong to me. No matter who it is, they cannot take away what is mine." Li Qingfeng roared silently in his heart, staring at Qin Chen with resentment. "You think you've already won? You're celebrating a little too early. I originally wanted to hide this trump card, but now that things have come to this, I'll let you see my true strength, Li Qingfeng." He pushed the true energy in his body to the limit, and with a bang, a scarlet flame suddenly ignited on Li Qingfeng's body. Under the scorching flames, the arena seemed to have suddenly entered the hot summer, and everyone felt a suffocating heat wave. It's the Crimson Flame bloodline, the ancestral bloodline that Li Qingfeng awakened. What a strong bloodline aura. Heavens, Li Qingfeng has actually been able to integrate the power of his bloodline into his true energy. It's over now. Li Qingfeng awakened a third-grade bloodline. After merging with his true energy, he can even fight against a late-stage Earth Realm martial artist. My heavens, Zhao Lingshan and Wang Qiming before only activated their bloodlines, but that was just activation. The improvement to their strength was only an auxiliary effect, but Li Qingfeng actually managed to truly integrate the power of his bloodline into his true energy. He's only at the early stage of the Earth Realm. How did he do it? Too exciting. The crowd roared. Everyone was so excited that they couldn't be any more excited. The twists and turns of the battle were simply overwhelming. You must know that the power of bloodlines is a very magical power. After a martial artist awakens it, they cannot use it directly. They must constantly familiarize themselves with the power of the bloodline and first be able to activate the bloodline in battle. After activation, the power of the bloodline will have a certain bonus to the martial artist's strength, but this is only the initial stage. To truly integrate the power of the bloodline into true energy for combat, a martial artist needs tireless comprehension and training. Generally speaking, being able to do this in the late stage of the Earth Realm is already considered amazing, but Li Qingfeng actually did it not long after breaking through to the early stage of the Earth Realm, which is enough to shock everyone. Ha ha ha. Qin Chen, although you have also awakened a bloodline, it is only the weakest first-grade bloodline, and you who have just awakened it can't even activate it. What are you going to use to compare with me? Li Qingfeng's whole body burned with scarlet flames, and he was like a flame war god. Qin Chen's expression remained unchanged, and he said indifferently, I don't know where you get the confidence to turn yourself into this. Do you think you're a candle? You're trying to anger me, you're courting death. The monstrous flames instantly surged, and Li Qingfeng's right fist transformed into a flame dragon, rushing out with a rumble, crushing towards Qin Chen. Crimson flame palm, fire dragon soaring to the heavens. The huge flame dragon opened its bloody mouth and swallowed Qin Chen in one bite. Be careful. Below the stage, Qin Yuqi clenched her fists worriedly and exclaimed, her body slightly forward. Well done. A surge of heroism rose from Qin Chen's body, and he actually took the initiative to rush into the flames, using all his strength to punch the neck of the flame dragon. Bang! The flame dragon screamed miserably and instantly exploded, and the flames flew everywhere, landing on the stone arena and burning out a large number of black pits. Some fell into the crowd outside the arena, causing a flurry of chaos. How could this be? In midair, Li Qingfeng's eyes widened in disbelief. The next moment, Qin Chen's right hand was already pressed against his lower abdomen. Fuse bloodlines. I can do that too. Boom! A ball of blue-white lightning erupted from Qin Chen's hand. As the lightning bloomed, Li Qingfeng was sent flying like a kite with a broken string, crashing heavily outside the arena. PFFT. His face was pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His clothes were torn, and a scorched black palm print was visible on his abdomen, a shocking sight. The plaza was silent for a moment, then erupted in a huge roar. So many twists and turns. I didn't expect Qin Chen to win in the end. I really didn't see that coming. Lightning bloodline. It looked like Qin Chen released the power of the lightning bloodline just now. How is that possible? How long has it been since he awakened his bloodline? How can he already use the power of his bloodline to fight? What exactly happened just now? Even if Qin Chen activated his bloodline power, his bloodline is only the worst, a first-grade bloodline, while Li Qingfeng awakened a third-grade scarlet flame bloodline. Why was he so vulnerable in Qin Chen's hands? I regret it so much now. If I had known, I would have bet on Qin Chen to win. 10 times the payout. Who could have guessed this would happen? The match ended, and the entire plaza was filled with uproar, unable to calm down. This year-end assessment was destined to become the most watched competition in the history of Tianxing Academy. The 3 great Earth rank experts were all defeated, and the one who won first place was actually a late-stage human rank student, causing a sensation. Did you see it clearly just now? Are you talking about the move he used to defeat Li Qingfeng? You saw it too. Unbelievable. Li Qingfeng's control over the Scarlet Flame bloodline, although still very rough, isn't something an ordinary martial artist could see through. But Qin Chen saw the weakest point of the Scarlet Flame Dragon at a glance and shattered it. Could it be that he has the potential to become a bloodline master? Xiao Zhan and Chu Weiken looked at each other, their eyes filled with deep shock. Mentor Luo Zhan took a long time to recover. He went to the stage and excitedly shouted, "The winner is Qin Chen. Congratulations to him for winning first place in the year-end assessment. Second place is Li Qingfeng. Next, we will proceed with the competition for third and fourth place." Upon hearing this, the crowd erupted in earth-shattering roars, cheering for Qin Chen's victory. Through these matches, Qin Chen completely impressed everyone present, making them look at him with new eyes. Po Qian, did you see that? Archinair, he came in first. Below the stage, Qin Yuqi was in tears, her eyes full of gratification. The third and fourth place match was also very exciting, but Wang Qiming's injuries were too severe and had not yet healed. Therefore, after only a dozen moves, he was sent flying away by Zhao Lingshan's sword and defeated. From this point on, the rankings of the entire year-end assessment were determined. First, Qin Chen. Second, Li Qingfeng. Third, Zhao Lingshan. Fourth, Wang Qiming. Qin Chen became the most dazzling existence in the entire competition. Next up was the awarding of prizes. The first place prize was a storage ring, plus the right to choose any mid-level Xuan rank martial skill or technique from the Academy's library, and 10,000 silver coins. This made the crowd below the stage extremely envious. Storage rings are special treasures. Even the lowest level ones are worth 100,000 silver coins, and mid-level Xuan rank martial skills and techniques are equally priceless and extremely valuable. If taken to an auction, they would be enough to cause countless people to fight over them. In comparison, 10,000 silver coins aren't much. The one giving Qin Chen the award was Dean Chu Weiken. At this moment, he was truly face to face with Qin Chen, his eyes full of admiration. He said, "Work hard. The future will definitely belong to you young people, but remember, never be arrogant. I have seen many geniuses who shone brightly in the early stages but ended up mediocre and ordinary. They were not defeated by enemies, they were defeated by pride and complacency." Chu Weiken's tone was very sincere, and Qin Chen calmly said, "I will, Dean." "Well, do you have any requests?" Chu Weiken was very satisfied with Qin Chen's performance and couldn't help but say one more sentence. Originally, he was just asking casually, but Qin Chen said, "This student really has a request, and I hope the dean can grant it." Chu Weiken was stunned, then smiled and said, "Speak." This student would like to exchange the opportunity to cultivate a mid-level Xuan rank technique for silver coins. Upon hearing this, the whole place erupted in an uproar, and everyone stared at Qin Chen in disbelief. Exchanging the technique for silver coins. Is this kid crazy? Including Li Qingfeng, Zhao Lingshan, and others, they all stared at Qin Chen in disbelief. Mid-level Xuan rank secret skills are rare even in the entire Darky Kingdom. They are often enough to cause countless people to fight to the death. These kinds of treasures cannot be bought with money, and only Tianxing Academy can have such an opportunity, but Qin Chen actually doesn't want it. Even if Qin Chen comes from the Dingwu King's mansion, which itself possesses Xuan rank techniques, Tianxing Academy has several mid-level Xuan rank techniques that even the royal family doesn't possess. Little did they know that, for Qin Chen, mid-level Xuan rank techniques were really too trashy. He had quite a few heaven rank techniques in his mind, so how could he care about Xuan rank techniques? In comparison, being poor right now was the real deal, and martial arts training required too many resources. "Are you sure?" Chu Weiken stared intently at Qin Chen. "I'm sure." "All right." Chu Weiken nodded and said, "Originally, I wouldn't have agreed to such a request, but because it was you who made it, I agree. However, it can only be exchanged for 100,000 silver coins." "Thank you, Dean." Putting on the storage ring, Qin Chen pretended to try it out slightly, and then directly threw in the 110,000 silver notes. Qin Chen's quick mastery of the storage ring's opening method shocked Chu Weiken again. Next, the 2nd to 8th place contestants also received awards, but compared to Qin Chen, they were much worse. Whoosh! After the awarding ceremony, Spirit Marshal King Xiao Zhan landed on the arena. Everyone stared intently, their expressions expectant. It was said that this time the royal family would also reward the top 8 contestants, which was unprecedented, and according to Mentor Luo Zhan's previous words, the rewards for the top 4 were something even he envied. They wondered what they would be. Spirit Marshal King Xiao Zhan's gaze swept over the 8 people, eventually landing on Qin Chen, and he said loudly, "Everyone, first of all, congratulations to you for becoming the 8 most outstanding people in this year's Tianxing Academy. To this end, the royal family has decided to give the 5th to 8th place contestants each a reward of entering the Royal Martial Arts Room to choose a low-level Xuan rank technique. In addition, once you 4 graduate from Tianxing Academy, as long as you are willing, you can directly join the royal capital's Imperial Guards and serve as a deputy captain." Wow! The crowd erupted in an uproar. Although Xuan level low-grade cultivation methods are not uncommon for some wealthy individuals, the martial arts within the Royal Martial Arts Chamber are recognized as the most outstanding in the entire Great Qi Kingdom. It contains many treasures that wealthy families do not possess. Being able to select a martial art is enough to stir the hearts of everyone. And the second reward caused everyone to whisper. Even a marquis's heir like Li Qingfeng could only start as an ordinary imperial guard if he wanted to enter the court. Now, Being able to directly serve as a vice captain is enough to make many people's paths easier. If the rewards for 5th to 8th place are already so generous, what will the rewards for 1st to 4th place be? But Ling Wu King Xiao continued, as for the rewards for 1st to 4th place, it is the opportunity to enter the blood spirit pool for baptism. Half a month later, someone will lead you to gather in the palace and head to the Demon Ancestor mountain range to receive the blood spirit pool's baptism. You must seize this opportunity and strive to improve your cultivation as much as possible so that you can absorb more blood spirit liquid. Qin Chen immediately noticed that the atmosphere in the entire arena instantly changed. A fervent atmosphere rose throughout the entire arena, and the breathing of Li Qingfeng and others instantly intensified. Blood spirit pool, it's actually the blood spirit pool, heavens. How is this possible? How could the royal family be willing to give such precious slots to these 15, 16, and 17-year-old youths like Qin Chen and the others? According to custom, those who were previously selected by the royal family to enter the blood spirit pool were basically late-stage Earth-level cultivators between the ages of 20 and 23, and geniuses who were expected to step into the heaven level within a short period of time. How could it be this time? After the blood spirit pool baptism, it will be the 5 Nations tournament. The slots for entering the blood spirit pool in each session are basically prepared for the upcoming 5 Nations tournament. In the previous 5 Nations tournament, 2 of our Great Qi Kingdom's participants broke into the top 10, obtaining 8 slots. Qin Chen and the others have taken up 4 slots at once. The atmosphere in the arena instantly became fervent, and everyone was shocked and discussed it madly. Qin Chen frowned slightly, quickly searching through the memories in his mind. What exactly is this blood spirit pool? Why would it make everyone so excited? Suddenly, a trace of memory was flipped out by him. It's actually a blood pool located in the Demon Ancestor mountain range that can enhance a martial artist's talent and cultivation. Qin Chen opened his eyes wide. So that's it. Surrounding the Northwest 5 Nations is a very magnificent mountain range called the Demon Ancestor Mountain Range, where blood beasts run rampant and dangers abound. Every year, countless martial artists enter the Demon Ancestor Mountain Range to hunt blood beasts. The mortality rate in the Demon Ancestor Mountain Range is extremely high, and many martial artists never return after entering. And the blood spirit pool is a very magical blood pool located deep within the Demon Ancestor Mountain Range. Hundreds of years ago, in the Great Wei Kingdom of the Northwest 5 Nations, an adventure team accidentally discovered this blood pool and entered it. They were surprised to find that after receiving the blood pool's baptism, their physical strength and cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. This adventure team was overjoyed and wanted to hide the information, but for some reason, the news leaked and was learned by other adventurers, immediately triggering a tragic massacre. In that battle, countless adventurers fell. When the Great Wei Kingdom received the news, it immediately sent troops to occupy the blood pool, wanting to block the news and monopolize the blood pool, but by this time, the news had already spread to the other 4 countries in the Northwest. Immediately, the other 4 countries quickly took action, and the Northwest 5 Nations launched a tragic war in the Demon Ancestor Mountain Range for this blood spirit pool, which lasted for nearly 10 years. In that battle, the experts of the Northwest 5 Nations suffered heavy casualties, and no one could do anything to anyone. In addition, with the Blood Demon sect watching covetously from the outside, the high-level officials of the Northwest 5 Nations met and finally reached an agreement. The blood spirit pool would be opened once every 5 years, and the Northwest 5 Nations would hold a grand competition every 5 years, with young geniuses under the age of 24 competing. Based on the number of people in the top 10, they would receive different slots for the blood spirit pool. One ranking would grant 4 slots to enter the blood pool. In the previous Northwest 5 Nations tournament, the Great Qi Kingdom had a total of 2 people who entered the top 10, thus obtaining 8 slots. Generally speaking, these 8 people would all be the contestants participating in the next competition because after entering the blood pool, their cultivation would be improved to some extent, striving to break into the top 10. But now, 4 slots have been directly given to these 16 and 17-year-old youths like Qin Chen and the others, immediately triggering shock among the crowd. Because no matter how high Qin Chen and the others' talents are, they are still too young after all. Even if they receive the baptism, it is impossible for them to break into the top 10 in the Northwest Five Nations tournament. Giving these 4 slots to them is simply a waste. In the nearly 100 years of blood pool slots, such a situation has never happened before. The crowd was puzzled and shocked, but for Li Qingfeng, Zhao Lingshan, and Wang Qiming, it was ecstasy. As long as they receive the baptism of the blood pool, their future will be bright, and becoming heaven-level experts, at least, will be an easy task. At this time, Qin Chen also developed a trace of curiosity about the blood spirit pool. A blood pool that can enhance a martial artist's talent, strength, and cultivation. Interesting. Qin Chen, this time you were lucky enough to win a round. That's because my control over the power of bloodlines is not very skilled yet. After the blood pool baptism, I will definitely defeat you. Li Qingfeng said ferociously. The higher the cultivation, the more improvement one will get from the blood pool baptism. Li Qingfeng believed that once he received the baptism, defeating Qin Chen would be an easy task. At this moment, he regained his confidence. Is that so? Qin Chen glanced at him indifferently, non-committal. After his rebirth, he has already begun to exert his strength. It is unlikely that anyone he has surpassed will be able to catch up with his footsteps, let alone surpass him. Humph. Li Qingfeng snorted coldly. Qin Chen, I won't lose to you either. Zhao Lingshan said, biting her lip, looking at Qin Chen with a gleam in her eyes. Although Wang Qiming did not speak, his eyes explained everything, also regarding Qin Chen as his goal, a goal to surpass. I'm waiting for you. Qin Chen swept over the 3 of them, smiling faintly. Seeing him, he thought of his past self. Youth is capital, isn't it? From then on, the annual assessment of Tianxing Academy came to an end, and everyone left the square one after another, their expressions still filled with excitement. Mother. Qin Chen came to Qin Yuqi's side and smiled. I said, your son will definitely not disappoint you. Chenair. Qin Yuqi hugged Qin Chen excitedly. I knew it. My Chenair must be the best. Congratulations, young Master Chen. Congratulations, Miss Qin. Liang Yu and Prince Kang walked over together with Zhao Lingshan. Qin Yuqi hurriedly let go of Qin Chen and said to Liang Yu, thank you, Master Liang, for your help to my son earlier. Miss Qin, you don't have to be so polite. Young Master Chen is kind to me. Being able to help young Master Chen is Liang's honor. If Miss Qin has any needs in the future, you can come to the artifact hall to find Liang. As long as I can help, Liang will never refuse. Qin Yuqi looked at Qin Chen in surprise, wondering what Qin Chen had done to make Liang Yu have such an attitude. Hadn't Qin Fen said that Chenair had offended Liang Yu? Could it be just a rumor? Young Master Chen is indeed a heroic youth. I admire you, said Prince Kang with a smile, cupping his hands. If there is a chance in the future, please give my little girl some pointers. Having said that, Zhao Jing turned to Zhao Lingshan behind him and said, Chenair, you should interact more with young Master Chen in the future and let him give you some pointers. Moreover, you two are of similar age and should have a lot in common, ha ha ha. Zhao Jing laughed as he spoke. Zhao Lingshan lowered her head, her face flushed red, and bit her lip as she listened to her father's blatant words. Yes, father. Zhao Jing continued, Miss Qin, I heard that you have moved out of the Qin residence and are now living in the west of the city. The environment there is noisy, and the security is not very good. If you don't mind, my Kang Prince's mansion has a courtyard in the east of the city, not far from the Kang Prince's mansion. If you don't mind, I can lend this courtyard to Miss Qin and young Master Chen to live in. This. Qin Yuqi hesitated for a moment, then said, thank you for Prince Kang's kindness, but I cannot accept it. Miss Qin, there is no need to misunderstand. I only made this suggestion considering the safety of the two of you. Thank you for Prince Kang's kindness, I am very grateful, but I cannot accept it. Qin Yuqi shook her head. Zhao Jing sighed, since that's the case, I won't force it. However, if Miss Qin changes her mind, you can contact me at any time. I will always keep that courtyard for the two of you. The group chatted and left the academy square. Qin residence. On a gilded bed, Qin Fen was wrapped in gauze, his face as pale as gold, lying there with a look of despair in his eyes. Beside him, Two apothecaries who had been invited wiped the cold sweat from their foreheads and sighed, "Madam Zhao, please forgive our incompetence. After our treatment, the injuries on the second young master's body are no longer serious and will heal completely in a few days. However, the chi pool in the second young master's body has completely collapsed, and we are unable to do anything about it." "No, mother, I don't want to be a cripple, I don't want to be a cripple." Hearing this, Qin Chen cried out in despair. Zhao Feng's heart ached like a knife, and she said, "Two masters, is there really no hope for Fenna's injuries?" The two apothecaries smiled wryly. "If you say there is no hope at all, that is not entirely true. As far as this old man knows, there is a 6th grade rebirth pill that can regenerate the second young master's chi pool and regain his strength. In addition, there are some other 6th grade pills that can also cure the second young master's problem, but such pills cannot be refined by us. Please forgive us for our incompetence." 6th grade rebirth pill. Zhao Feng's heart was filled with despair. The most outstanding alchemists in the entire Great Qi Kingdom were only 4th grade. 6th grade pills were hard to find even if you searched the entire Northwest 5 kingdoms. "I understand, Rouge. Go to the accounting room to settle the bill and send the two masters off," Zhao Feng said, suppressing her anger. "Yes, madam," Rouge responded respectfully. "Two masters, please follow me." After the two apothecaries left, Zhao Feng's face suddenly turned gloomy, and her eyes shot out a venomous light like a poisonous snake. "Qin Chen." "Madam." Just then, the door was suddenly opened, and Qin Yong walked in. After treatment, the injuries on his body were no longer serious. "How is that bastard?" Zhao Feng asked coldly. "Madam." Qin Yong's face showed a hint of disbelief, and he said, "This subordinate has found out that Qin Chen, he. What's wrong with him?" Zhao Feng said angrily. "He defeated Li Qingfeng, the heir of Marquis Wuan, and won the first place in the year-end exam." "What?" Zhao Feng was so shocked that she crushed the green pearl in her hand. "Are you sure you didn't hear wrong? That bastard can get first place." Qin Yong's face was full of bitterness. This subordinate also thought he had heard wrong, but this subordinate asked several people. "Qin Chen, he did get first place in the year-end exam. Moreover, half a month later, the royal family will take him to the Demon Ancestor mountain range for the blood spirit pool baptism." "Impossible, that bastard." Just based on that bastard, Zhao Feng's eyes were shocked, almost unable to believe her ears, and she screamed, "Damn it, we were all deceived by that little bastard, that damn little bastard. Mother, you must avenge your son, you must avenge your son. Qin Chen must have done it on purpose." Qin Fen shouted resentfully, his face full of ferocity and madness. "Qin Yong, I want that bastard to die, do you hear me? You must not let that bastard live until half a month later," Zhao Feng shouted hysterically. But the Marquis's sighed. "Don't worry about the Marquis, that bastard must die." Zhao Feng's nails pierced deeply into her palm, and she roared. "Yes." Qin Yong lowered his head, a murderous intent rising in his eyes, and said coldly, "This subordinate will take care of it immediately. This time, we must not screw it up again." Zhao Feng lowered her head, her eyes staring at Qin Yong with a ferocious look like a ghost. "If you screw it up again, then bring your own head over here. Please rest assured, madam, this subordinate will definitely handle it properly." Qin Yong knelt on the ground and said tremblingly, "HMPH. As long as this matter is accomplished, I can let you return home and enjoy a comfortable life for the rest of your life. You may leave." "Yes." Qin Yong stood up, walked to the door, and his back was already soaked with cold sweat. "Qin Chen, Qin Yuqi, you will all die," Qin Yong said, gritting his teeth, his eyes ferocious. The news of Qin Chen winning first place in the year-end exam spread like a gust of wind throughout the entire royal capital, causing a sensation. Prince Tianwu Qin, nicknamed the God of War in the army, controls half of the Great Qi Kingdom's army and is the most prestigious veteran of the Great Qi Kingdom. Several years ago, the Qin family produced another genius teenager, Qin Feng. He broke through to the Earth realm at the age of 14. After joining the army, he repeatedly made military achievements. Starting from a small soldier, he has now become the #1 captain in the army. It is very likely that he will become the youngest general in the history of the Great Qi Kingdom and is known as the #1 person in the younger generation of the army. Now, the Qin family has produced another Qin Chen. Such a prominent family has caused a shock throughout the entire royal capital. The Qin family's momentum is simply too heaven-defying. Fortunately, today's confrontation between Qin Chen and Qin Fen also made everyone understand that the Qin family's interior does not seem to be a monolithic entity, and there are also struggles in the dark. And Qin Chen has already been expelled from the Qin family. Of course, many people secretly suspect that the antagonism between Qin Chen and Qin Fen was a deliberate arrangement by the Qin family, the purpose of which was to prevent the Qin family from being too noticeable, as a tree that stands out in the forest is easily felled. After all, which family would dislike having a genius like Qin Chen? They would be too busy protecting him, so how could they drive him out? Just as various speculations and discussions were raging, a shocking message from Tianxing Academy completely detonated the entire royal capital. After investigation, Tianxing Academy confirmed that Go Zhu was bought by the Qin family, intending to prevent Qin Chen from passing the assessment and wanting him to be expelled from the academy. Go Zhu also admitted that the confrontation between Qin Chen and Qin Fen was arranged by him. In a fit of rage, Tianxing Academy directly abolished Go Zhu's cultivation, stripped him of his title as a tutor, and sent him to the army. At the same time, Tianxing Academy directly submitted a letter to the royal family, requesting the royal family to punish the Qin family for interfering in the Tianxing Academy's assessment. A single stone stirs up 1,000 waves. The position of Tianxing Academy in Darky Kingdom has always been very detached. Countless children of powerful and wealthy families in the royal capital are studying at Tianxing Academy, and even the royal princes and princesses are often arranged to enter Tianxing Academy. The Qin family's actions have completely disrupted the rules of Tianxing Academy. The current emperor was furious and urgently summoned Marquis Anping, Qin Yuanhong, scolding him severely in the court, fining him a year's salary, and demanding that the Qin family make a review and give Tianxing Academy justice. Marquis Anping, Qin Yuanhong, was scolded bloody by the emperor in the court, feeling extremely depressed. He hurriedly defended that he was completely unaware of this matter and would definitely investigate the cause after returning, giving Tianxing Academy an explanation. In fact, Qin Yuanhong knew in his heart that this must be Zhao Feng's doing again. Burning with anger, he rushed back to the mansion, but before he could scold Zhao Feng, he saw his second son lying on the bed, crippled. Qin Yuanhong's angry heart instantly turned into grief, and then the anger erupted like a volcano, scolding Zhao Feng severely. A woman's heart can ruin more than it can build. Regarding the matter of contacting Go Zhu, did you ever show your face? After a moment, Qin Yuanhong, who had calmed down, said gloomily. No, I have always ordered Qin Yong to handle this matter, and I have never shown my face once, Zhao Feng said. That's good. Qin Yuanhong's tightly knitted brows slightly relaxed, and he let out a long breath. Is the matter really that serious? Zhao Feng said in astonishment. What do you know? Qin Yuanhong looked at Zhao Feng coldly. Do you know what position Tianxing Academy holds in my Darky Kingdom? When the current emperor was young, he was also a student of the academy. Now that old thing Chu Weiken is stubbornly holding onto our Qin family in the court, insisting that our Qin family has disrupted the order of Tianxing Academy. If this matter is not handled well, it will be a huge disaster for our Qin family. Zhao Feng snorted coldly. Our Qin family is also a martial king family, and has made great achievements for the Darky Kingdom. It can be said that half of the Darky Kingdom's territory was conquered by our Qin family. His Majesty wouldn't do that, would he? You know nothing. Qin Yuanhong said angrily. It is precisely because our Qin family's military achievements are too prominent that we must be more cautious. Why has father been in the army for so many years and rarely returned? It is to prevent the current emperor's suspicion. Feng He recently defeated tens of thousands of iron cavalry from the Dewei Kingdom, and his military exploits are enough to promote Feng He to general. Not only this time, but according to Feng He's previous outstanding military exploits, he would have been promoted to general long ago if he were an ordinary Marquis family. But why is Feng He still just a captain? Don't you understand the reason? Qin Yuanhong snorted coldly. Our Qin family has been cautious all these years, for fear of arousing the slightest attention from His Majesty. You're good. You're directly bringing our Qin family to the forefront. Are you afraid that our Qin family isn't conspicuous enough? Zhao Feng was speechless from the scolding, and finally revealed a trace of panic, saying, then what do we do now? What can we do? His Majesty and that old thing Chu Weiken's anger must be appeased. We can't force it. Qin Yong has to be handed over. No. Zhao Feng said hastily. HMPH. Don't worry. Qin Yong has been working diligently in my house for so many years, and I will naturally not hand him over easily. However, he can be spared the death penalty, but he cannot escape punishment. Where is he now? Call him over here. This. Zhao Feng stammered. Where is he? Seeing Zhao Feng's appearance, Qin Yuanhong's heart suddenly sank, and he felt a trace of ominousness. He knew his wife's character too well. Could she have done something terrible again? Immediately, he roared. What have you done again? Tell me quickly, or do you have to drag my Qin family down with you? Zhao Feng's face darkened, and she gritted her teeth and said, Qin Yong has already been sent out by me. Qin Yuanhong was shocked, his expression changed, and he said, you wouldn't be. That's right, that Qin Chen injured Fener, so how could I let him live past tonight? Not only him, but also that bitch Qin Yuqi, I want her to die too, and let them both pay the price for Fener's injury. What? Qin Yuanhong hurriedly went out. It's too late. I estimate that Qin Yong has already taken action. If you go there now, you will only bring the fire to our Qin family, Zhao Feng sneered. Qin Yuanhong's face was ashen, full of resentment. You. What about me? Zhao Feng said viciously. I only hate myself for being too kind before, for not directly crippling Qin Chen, and leaving him to the Tianxing Academy examination. If I had been cruel before and crippled him, how could Fener be in this state today? Ha ha, ha ha ha. Zhao Feng laughed viciously in the room. Alas. Qin Yuanhong looked at Zhao Feng's distorted face and sighed heavily. Now that things have come to this, he has no other choice. His eyes turned, and Qin Yuanhong came up with a plan. After a moment, Qin Yuanhong urgently convened a family meeting, and immediately found a few servants who had a good relationship with Qin Yong. He directly announced that Qin Yong had secretly colluded with Go Zhu behind the family's back, intending to disrupt the Tianxing Academy examination. Then, without giving the few people a chance to speak, he directly executed them as accomplices in the Qin family's punishment hall. Qin Yuanhong then urgently met with the emperor, stating that this matter was entirely Qin Yong's doing. Several accomplices had been executed in public. As for Qin Yong, he was still missing, and the Qin family was fully pursuing him. Once discovered, he would be immediately handed over to Tianxing Academy for disposal. This matter immediately caused an uproar in the royal capital. Many families sneered at the Qin family's performance, and they all knew in their hearts that the so-called few servants were just scapegoats handed over by Qin Yuanhong. The Qin family's chief steward plotted to harm the Qin family's young master. You have to have someone believe it when you say it. At this time, Qin Chen naturally did not know everything that had happened in the Qin mansion, and even if he knew, he would not take it to heart. Night. In the room. Huff. With a mouthful of turbid air exhaled, Qin Chen's body emitted a crackling sound, and he slowly stood up. I have finally reached the late peak of the human realm. As expected, battle is the best way to cultivate. Qin Chen threw a punch, and the air immediately made an astonishing explosive sound, even more terrifying than during the year-end exam. The 9-star God Emperor art is indeed a powerful technique rumored to have been passed down from the heavenly realm. It is indeed powerful, and it can make me, on such a backward foundation, reach a level not inferior to the geniuses of the martial domain. However, compared to my previous life, my current physical strength is still far behind. Feeling the power in his body, Qin Chen did not feel joy, but rather a deep pressure. If my goal is only to reach the level of my previous life, then it is already enough now, but if I want to defeat Feng Xiaoyu and Shangguan Xie, it is still far from enough. I still need to become stronger, strong enough to reach a height that even my previous life could not reach. Qin Chen's body burst out with an astonishing fighting spirit. During this time, Qin Chen also learned some news about Fan Xiaoyu and Shangguan Xie. 300 years had passed, and the two had already become the top experts in the Tianwu Continent. One was the Xuanyuan Emperor, and the other was the Lingbo Empress. They had respectively established a peerless dynasty and the continent's top sect. The combination of these two forces was so powerful that even a remote place like the Darky Kingdom had heard of the Xuanyuan Emperor and the Lingbo Empress's immense reputation. Countless geniuses in the Tianwu Continent regarded them as idols and goals. I can only take revenge and reclaim what once belonged to me if I surpass my previous life. A sharp light suddenly shot out from Qin Chen's eyes, and an indomitable will soared into the sky. At this moment, a soft sound suddenly came from outside the door. Who? Qin Chen suddenly woke up and looked towards the door. In a flash, he was like a nimble civet cat, and with a snap, he instantly arrived in the courtyard. Chenair, it's Mom. Outside the door, Qin Yuqi stood in the cold wind, looking at Qin Chen gently. Mom, why are you here? It's cold outside, come in quickly. Qin Chen breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly welcomed Qin Yuqi in. Closing the door, the cold wind was instantly blocked outside. Qin Chen said with heartache, Mom, how long have you been standing outside? Why didn't you say anything? During this period of time, Qin Chen had completely accepted Qin Yuqi. In his previous life, Qin Chen was an orphan, but in this life, he felt the care of maternal love, and his heart was full of warmth. Mom is fine, Mom is just happy today. Qin Yuqi looked at Qin Chen with gentle eyes, and gently stroked Qin Chen's face with her hand, saying, Mom just remembered when you were 3 years old, you accidentally fell into the pond in the mansion while playing. By the time the servants found you and pulled you up, you had already fainted. Mom was so worried about you, she hurriedly took you to Xueni Medicine Pavilion to get medicine. You didn't wake up until the next day. You don't know how scared Mom was at the time, afraid of losing you. As Qin Yuqi spoke, tears dripped onto Qin Chen's face, warm. Qin Chen was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, Mom, you remembered wrong, right? I remember that I was 5 years old when I fell into the pond. Moreover, I was in a coma for 3 days before I woke up. Mom, you stayed by my bedside for 3 days. The first thing I saw when I woke up was you, Mom, leaning against the bedside, exhausted. I clearly remember that you cried in your sleep, and the pillow was wet. At that time, I secretly vowed in my heart that I must never let Mom cry again. Is that so? Qin Yuqi smiled gently, and Qin Chen felt that she seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Then maybe Mom remembered wrong. Yes. Mom may have been too tired these days. Moreover, it wasn't that I accidentally fell into the pond, but that Qin Fen tripped me. Later, if Qin Ying hadn't discovered me and called the servants to pull me up, I'm afraid I would have lost my life. Qin Chen said with lingering fear, but today, I finally took revenge. A sharp light shot out from Qin Chen's eyes, and he said, when I was in the Qin mansion before, I vowed that I must become a strong person, so I worked hard to cultivate and joined Qiangxing Academy, but I couldn't awaken my bloodline. After being injured by Wei Zhen that time, I don't know why, but I seemed to suddenly become smarter. Things that I couldn't understand before, I suddenly understood. My bloodline also suddenly awakened, and my cultivation speed also increased a lot. Oh. Qin Yuqi frowned and said, I heard that in the Tianwu Continent, there are indeed some people who become great later in life. After experiencing a certain event, learning martial arts becomes very easy. Maybe you are in this situation. Is that so? Yes. In fact, this kind of late bloomer doesn't suddenly become smart. There is a saying in the outside world called enlightenment. Could it be that you have been enlightened? Enlightenment. Qin Chen nodded and said, I may have been enlightened. In the future, I will become stronger and stronger, so strong that no one can hurt Mom. Chenair, Mom is already very happy as long as you are well. Qin Yuqi looked at Qin Chen gently and hugged him tightly. Suddenly, Qin Yuqi looked at Qin Chen in shock. Chenair, your cultivation has improved again. Yes. I just reached the late stage peak of the human realm. Qin Chen nodded. Immediately, he looked at Qin Yuqi suspiciously. His mother had no cultivation, how could she tell that he had broken through? Qin Yuqi seemed to know what Qin Chen was thinking and explained, Mom saw a change in your temperament, so she guessed that you should have broken through. But Chenair. Qin Yuqi became serious. Mom heard that the blood spirit pool is a very magical spirit pool, possessing extraordinary power. The stronger the physical body, the more benefits you get. Mom didn't expect the Darky Kingdom to be willing to take out the blood spirit pool as a reward. Therefore, going to the blood spirit pool this time is an opportunity. Mom's suggestion to you is to fully improve your body strength during this time. As for the realm, you can postpone it for a while. Mom, I know. Qin Chen nodded and said, but he was suspicious in his heart. How did Mom know so much about these things? All right. Mom won't disturb your rest. The competition just ended today, you must be very tired. Mom will go back first and make you something delicious tomorrow. Qin Yuqi touched Qin Chen's head and left the room. In the courtyard, Qin Yuqi looked at Qin Chen's room and breathed a sigh of relief, as if she had unloaded a big stone from her heart. Although Chenair is different from before, as long as he is my Chenair, that's enough. She whispered and slowly left. Mom asked so many questions just now, she must have discovered something. Fortunately, my explanation just now was not bad. Hearing Qin Yuqi's footsteps leaving, Qin Chen slightly breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Yuqi asked so many questions before, and some of the things she said were even wrong. It was definitely not an accident, it must have been intentional. Fortunately, Qin Chen reacted in time and smoothed out a lot of things. It has to be said that as a mother, Qin Yuqi's perception was too sensitive, and she almost saw through Qin Chen's strangeness. After Qin Yuqi left, Qin Chen was not sleepy and sat cross-legged on the bed again. Outside the window, the night was quiet, and a crescent moon hung on the treetops. Mom seems to be different from before today, and Mom knows so much about the blood spirit pool. She must be hiding something from me, urging me to improve my body strength. She should know something. In fact, without Qin Yuqi's reminder, Qin Chen was not prepared to enter the Earth realm too early. Because of the opening of the 12 meridians, Qin Chen's cultivation was different from ordinary people, and he was far from reaching the limit. As a strong person in his previous life, Qin Chen had many techniques that could improve his strength. At the moment, he began to practice a very powerful martial skill from his previous life, the Berserk Battle martial skill. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours later, Qin Chen felt that his strength had obviously increased a little. But Qin Chen frowned, this kind of strength increase is too slow. Although the Berserk Battle martial skill is strong, my current cultivation is too low. In half a month, even if I practice all the time, I can only increase 3 horses of strength at most, which is close to 30 horsepower. It is still too weak, unless I use some auxiliary means to increase my own strength to a limit. It seems that I must go to the medicine market tomorrow. Qin Chen said thoughtfully. If other martial artists were to hear this thought, they would definitely feel frustrated and want to beat Qin Chen up. To possess the strength of 30 horses at the late stage peak of the human realm, almost 3 times that of ordinary martial artists, and still complain that it's not enough. Standing up, Qin Chen went to the window. A bright crescent moon hung in the sky, and faint moonlight shone through the window lattices, falling on Qin Chen's body. Qin Chen suddenly fell into a mysterious and profound state. In his mind, the mysterious ancient book that had traveled with him once again appeared. The ancient book, quietly suspended in Qin Chen's mind, seemed to have undergone countless years of precipitation, flowing with a trace of time. What exactly is the origin of this ancient book? Qin Chen wondered in his heart, his perception fixed on the ancient book. Under the moonlight, the ancient book suddenly emitted a faint light, and half a character slowly appeared from the blank pages of the ancient book, emitting a strange light. What is this? Qin Chen was taken aback and tried his best to see clearly, wanting to distinguish the handwriting, but the font was very blurry. Qin Chen tried his best, but only saw a vague shadow and could not distinguish the handwriting at all. Suddenly, a beam of light shot up from the half character. With a bang, that powerful beam of light instantly bombarded Qin Chen's sea of souls. Qin Chen felt as if his mind was about to explode. This terrifying pain was unbearable even for Qin Chen's tenacious will. The white light was like thousands of steel needles, piercing fiercely into Qin Chen's mind. The Sea of Souls was almost blasted in an instant. Under the pricking of thousands of white lights, Qin Chen trembled all over, almost kneeling down, his body twisting in pain. The severe pain caused a large amount of sweat to seep out of his body. As soon as the sweat seeped out of his body, it was instantly evaporated and turned into water vapor. What exactly is this thing? Qin Chen desperately resisted, gritting his teeth and persevering. He understood that as long as his consciousness relaxed even a little, he would be blasted into residue by this white light. He had finally been reborn, how could he easily die here? Boom boom boom. Qin Chen's Sea of Souls kept shaking and churning, like the sea under a rainstorm, constantly cracking under the white light. Just as the Sea of Souls was about to completely explode, suddenly. Sizzle sizzle sizzle. A mysterious force suddenly emerged from Qin Chen's body. Above the Sea of Souls, countless thunder and lightning suddenly filled the air. The thunder and lightning wandered like silver snakes, constantly healing and repairing his damaged Sea of Souls. It was Qin Chen's thunder bloodline power. With the help of thunder, Qin Chen's Sea of Souls slowly formed a vortex, constantly devouring the white light blooming from the mysterious ancient book. A trace of Qin Chen's remaining will stubbornly guarded the Sea of Souls. A strong doubt arose in his heart. What exactly was this mysterious ancient book? What kind of bloodline was his thunder bloodline, that it could actually repair the Sea of Souls? It was incredible. He had seen too many bloodlines in his life, but those that could repair the soul were few and far between. Who cares? The more magical the bloodline, the more powerful it is. Qin Chen calmed down and urged the power of his bloodline and soul to frantically absorb the white light. Boom boom boom. The white light, which was originally like a needle prick, fell into the vortex of the Sea of Souls, like a clay ox entering the sea, without stirring up any waves, and disappeared. Qin Chen felt that although the white light had disappeared, his soul power had expanded a bit, and it was filled with surging soul power. Mental perception soared in an instant. The powerful soul power and mental power fed back to the whole body, making the meridians and flesh in the body more solid. A large amount of impurities were squeezed out. A layer of black mud quickly formed on Qin Chen's body, and then quickly dried and scabbed, rustling off, revealing fair skin, as if he had been reborn. It was unknown how long it took, but the ancient book seemed to have exhausted its power, suddenly dimmed, and half of the character disappeared, before sinking into Qin Chen's Sea of Souls. Huff. Letting out a long breath, Qin Chen opened his eyes, and the scene in front of him suddenly became extremely clear. In the dark night, everything was clearly presented, as if it were daytime. Immediately, Qin Chen was shocked to find that his mental power, under the baptism of white light, was several times stronger than before. What's going on? Why has my mental power suddenly become so much stronger? Originally, Qin Chen's mental power was still some distance away from the first rank, but now it has suddenly been raised to the late stage of the first rank, and it is only one step away from the second rank. This is simply too exaggerated. You must know that the cultivation of mental power is much more difficult than cultivation. Otherwise, the weapon refiners, alchemists, and bloodline masters in this world would not be so high above. Like Liang Yu, who is known as the top weapon refining genius of the Great Qi Kingdom, he has only raised his mental power to the middle stage of the second rank. Qin Chen's one night of cultivation was equal to 10 years of hard work for him. Qin Chen himself was shocked by such speed. Huh. Suddenly, Qin Chen seemed to sense something, and his brows furrowed slightly. After the mental power broke through the first rank, Qin Chen's perception was obviously much stronger, and he vigilantly felt that there was something unusual outside the house, as if someone was slowly approaching. After thinking for a while, Qin Chen quietly sneaked out of the room, his figure like a civet cat, carefully heading towards a corner of the wall outside the courtyard. In the process of moving, he urged his first-rank late-stage mental power to the extreme. His mental power enveloped his body, like a ghost, silent, and others could not detect it at all. At this time, in a darkness outside the courtyard where Qin Chen lived, several men in black, wearing headscarves, were lurking there. The leader had fierce eyes, exuding a sharp murderous intent, staring at Qin Chen's house. It was Qin Yong. Remember, Qin Yuqi and her son Qin Chen live in this mansion. Later, you guys listen to my orders. Once I send a message, immediately take action and be sure to kill both of them, leaving no survivors. Do you understand? Understood, several men in black said in a low voice, full of murderous intent. Okay, you guys, surround from behind. You guys, attack from the left and right wings. As for you, follow me. Qin Yong's eyes flashed with cold light, revealing a gloomy smile. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Immediately, nearly 10 figures flew onto the roof, sneaking forward like ghosts. In the darkness, a figure suddenly emerged from behind these people. Qin Chen's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He was very familiar with the voice of the previous leader. It was actually Qin Yong. The Qin family is so ruthless, they actually want his and his mother's lives. The anger in Qin Chen's heart burned fiercely, and he could not calm down no matter what. He had just quietly scanned with his mental power, and there were a total of 8 people on the other side, 4 early-stage Earth Realm, 3 mid-stage Earth Realm, and Qin Yong, a late-stage peak Earth Realm. Each of them carried a strong murderous aura, as if they had experienced countless battles. He's a bit difficult to deal with. Qin Chen frowned slightly. If it were just Earth Realm early and mid-stage cultivators, that would be fine, but with Qin Yong, a peak late-stage Earth Realm expert, it would be a bit tricky. Moreover, if anyone hurt his mother, it would be a huge problem. Now that things have come to this, it's too late to look for reinforcements. Although Qin Yong is a bit troublesome, it's not like there's no way to deal with him. What's more, the other party has already dispersed. I'll deal with the assassins on mother's side first. Qin Chen's eyes flashed, and he immediately made a decision, his figure quietly following. The spiritual power of a rank 1 late-stage cultivator, under Qin Chen's control, was like a thin film, covering his body, hiding him in the darkness, making him impossible to detect. The first ones he followed were the 2 assassins approaching Qin Yuqi's room. These 2, one at the Earth Realm mid-stage and the other at the Earth Realm early stage, moved very carefully, like cats walking at night, silently. Qin Chen quickly approached in the darkness. What's going on? The Earth Realm mid-stage assassin had been carrying out assassination missions for many years, so his perception was very keen. While walking, he suddenly felt a strange aura around him, as if something strange was spying on him in the dark. He immediately stopped and suddenly looked behind him. The empty rear was pitch black, without any movement. But the feeling of being spied on in his mind could not be dispelled. That feeling was very faint, lingering in his mind, and he couldn't tell where it came from. What's wrong? Shadow 3. Another assassin next to him saw him stop and couldn't help but ask in confusion. There seems to be someone nearby. Shadow 3 said in a deep voice, his eyes like a sharp sword, scanning the surrounding darkness, his eyes as bright as stars. No way, who else could be here besides us? The other assassin was startled and hurriedly spread out his perception, trying to find something, but the surroundings were empty, without anything. You wouldn't be mistaken, would you? Could it be that I really felt wrong? Shadow 3 frowned, because he found that the feeling had suddenly disappeared again, but he was not at ease. His cold eyes swept coldly across the dark surroundings, his perception permeating, scanning every inch of the surroundings. This guy's perception is really sharp, he can actually detect abnormalities. It seems he should be a professional assassin. The anger in Qin Chen's heart grew even stronger. The Qin family actually hired professional assassins to deal with him and his mother. He used his spiritual power secret technique to hide in the darkness. Strands of invisible spiritual power merged him with the darkness. Shadow 3's perception swept over him, but it was like sweeping through the air, without finding anything. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Shadow 3 breathed a sigh of relief when he found nothing around. He withdrew his perception. If he kept scanning with his perception, the aura it would generate would easily alarm others in the middle of the night. If the 2 prey Qin Yong wanted to deal with escaped, not only would he not get the commission, but he himself would be in trouble. Shadow 7, I'll enter from that side, you from this side. Wait for the employer's order together. If the target escapes from your side after the attack, you must stop them. You must not fail, Shadow 3 said after arriving near Qin Yuqi's room, pondering slightly. Don't worry, I'm here. Shadow 7 chuckled softly. He knew the target of this trip was just a weak woman with no power to restrain a chicken. What ability could she have? After Shadow 3 finished speaking, he swept to the side. The mansion Qin Chen bought had several large ancient trees planted in it. Shadow 3's body flashed a few times before disappearing into the darkness. The assassin called Shadow 7, seeing this, leaned lazily against an ancient tree, his attention fixed on Qin Yuqi's room, waiting for Qin Yong to send the message to attack. Seeing the two people in front separate, Qin Chen was immediately overjoyed. What a good opportunity. Before, when the two were together, he had no chance to attack. Once he killed one person in the first instance, the second person would make a commotion, alarming the others. If Qin Yong rushed up with everyone, he would inevitably fall into danger. But if he faced one person alone, then there would be no suspense. Even if the other party was an Earthrealm martial artist, it would be the same. With a flash of his figure, Qin Chen, like a ghost, quietly sneaked towards Shadow 7 beside the ancient tree. What's going on? Under the ancient tree, Shadow 7 stared intently at Qin Yuqi's room, suddenly feeling a strange aura. He frowned and looked around suspiciously. In the dark night, apart from the rustling of leaves caused by the night wind, there was nothing. The dim moonlight shone down, and the leaves, illuminated by the moonlight, formed mottled shadows, shaking like human figures. Could it be that I'm also overthinking it? Shadow 7 laughed self-deprecatingly. There was no abnormality in this dark night. He turned his head and continued to stare at Qin Yuqi's room. That's not right. Suddenly, Shadow 7 shuddered violently, his muscles tensing instantly. He and Shadow 3 were both assassins, and their perception was very keen. It was understandable that one person made a mistake, one could say that their nerves were too tense, but how could two people both make mistakes? There's someone nearby. As soon as this thought arose, Shadow 7 suddenly felt a murderous intent suddenly lock onto him, and a sense of crisis went straight to his back. He was shocked, his right hand suddenly placed on the war blade at his waist, and he drew his blade without hesitation, slashing down sharply behind him. Swish! The black war blade was like lightning, bringing with it a gust of wind. As an assassin, Shadow 7's war blade was plated with a layer of black paint, and when it was swung, it did not reflect any light, as if it were a black lightning, catching people off guard. But this blade suddenly struck empty, not hitting anything. The area behind him was empty, without anything. What the hell is it? Shadow 7 was terrified. He clearly felt the murderous intent, so why was there nothing after he turned around? Just as Shadow 7 was stunned, a figure suddenly slid down from the tree trunk above his head. With a puff sound, a cold light flashed across the night, passing over Shadow 7's neck. A bloody mark was cut open on Shadow 7's neck, and blood spurted out desperately. Shadow 7 widened his terrified eyes, opened his mouth, and didn't say anything. His eyes slowly dimmed, and his figure fell powerlessly. Shadow 7 didn't understand until he died what he was attacked by. Since he started cultivating, he had assassinated dozens if not hundreds of people, but he had never encountered such an attack. But he would never have the chance to understand. Quickly supporting Shadow 7's body to prevent him from falling and making a sound, Qin Chen's figure appeared in the darkness and landed on the ground. The first one. After succeeding with one strike, there was no trace of complacency in Qin Chen's eyes, as cold as profound ice. He quickly took off the other party's clothes, put them on himself, and pretended to be Shadow 7. Shadow 7 was a short fellow. In the darkness, Qin Chen recalled the other party's posture and appearance, quickly imitating it with uncanny accuracy, and quietly crept towards Shadow 3's location. Qin Chen wasn't entirely satisfied with his previous sneak attack. Before attacking, his presence was repeatedly detected. Even if it was because the other party was an assassin, with a perception more acute than ordinary martial artists, that wasn't a sufficient reason. As far as Qin Chen was concerned, the previous assassination attempt could be considered a failure. If the deceased Shadow 7 could know what Qin Chen was thinking, he would definitely crawl out of hell and die again in anger. On the other side of the house, Shadow 3 was hidden in the darkness, silent and still. He knew that this time's target was the Qin family's former eldest daughter. The Prince of Dingwu was a figure of great renown in the Great Qi Kingdom. Killing his daughter and grandson, if discovered, would certainly be a catastrophic disaster. But Shadow 3's heart was filled with excitement. He had good talent. The reason he became an assassin was to seek excitement. He liked the feeling of life and death assassinations. Whenever a martial artist's life was taken by him, watching the other party's terrified eyes dimming little by little, Shadow 3's heart would be filled with a perverse pleasure. He had heard that the Qin family's eldest daughter was once known as the most beautiful woman in the Great Qi Kingdom. Thinking of this, Shadow 3 couldn't help but lick his lips under his black mask. Today's assassination might have some unexpected surprises. Who's there? Suddenly, Shadow 3 noticed a figure quietly approaching from the corner, startling him so much that the hairs on his body stood on end, and he almost drew his blade. But after seeing who it was, his heart suddenly dropped. He angrily whispered, "Shadow 7, didn't I tell you to wait over there? What are you doing here?" Quote. Shadow 7 muttered something, probably because he was afraid of being discovered, so he spoke very softly, so that Shadow 3 didn't hear clearly what he said, and couldn't help but frown. "What are you saying?" Shadow 7 mumbled something, coming to Shadow 3's face. Shadow 3 finally heard clearly. It seemed to be saying something about over there, while also pointing to where they had sneaked in from earlier. Could it be that something happened over there? Shadow 3 stood up and immediately walked towards Shadow 7's previous location. Just as he walked past Shadow 7's body, he suddenly felt a shock in his heart. "Something's not right. Shadow 7's voice seems a bit strange. This isn't Shadow 7. The thought had just popped into his head when a cold light suddenly flashed behind him. With a puff sound, Shadow 3 didn't have time to dodge, and didn't even manage to muster his mid-earth realm true energy in time. He watched helplessly as an icy blade instantly pierced through the back of his heart. Wah! A mouthful of blood spurted out. Shadow 3 felt a chill all over his body. He wanted to shout, but his mouth was tightly covered. Turning his head, his terrified eyes only saw a pair of indifferent eyes calmly watching him, like the legendary king of assassins. Ugh! Uttering a single word, the temperature in Shadow 3's body rapidly faded. After a single breath, he had completely lost his voice, his eyes widened unblinking, dying with grievances. Even in death, he didn't understand why, when they were the ones who came to assassinate others, someone would know their whereabouts in advance, lie in ambush here, and silently kill Shadow 7 right next to him. The second one. Qin Chen muttered to himself. After searching Shadow 3's body, he silently disappeared into the darkness. Soon, Qin Chen used the same method to quietly kill another mid- and early Earth realm assassin. Like Shadow 3 and Shadow 7, they didn't react at all when they died, and were already separated from their bodies. Until their deaths, they didn't understand why their companions would suddenly violently attack and assassinate them. It was really because Qin Chen's disguise was too lifelike, and coupled with the preconceived notions, they didn't have time to react at all. The third one. The fourth one. Of the 8 people, half had already died, and only a moment had passed. Qin Chen's killing efficiency was too high. After another moment. The fifth one. Another early Earth realm assassin died at Qin Chen's hands. In the darkness, Qin Chen was like a god of death, silently reaping lives, and everyone's cultivation was above his. If they formally fought, it would inevitably be a great battle, but now, they died so silently. Qin Manor. Zhao Feng was currently sitting on Qin Fen's bed, seemingly waiting for some news. "Mother, is Qin Chen dead yet?" Qin Fen opened his eyes and asked hatefully. Since he became a cripple, he had been thinking of killing Qin Chen every moment. "Fener, don't worry. There's no news yet, but I guess Qin Yong has already taken action. It won't be long before the news of that bitch Qin Yuqi and her bastard's death will come. You should heal your wounds first, and we'll wait to hear the good news." Zhao Feng's face was full of resentment, cackling strangely. She roared silently in her heart, "Qin Chen, you dare to hurt my Fener, I will make your mother and son die without a burial place. Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha." Qin Yuanhong's study. The lights were bright. Qin Yuanhong sat quietly in a Grand Master chair, his gaze calmly piercing through the window sill, looking at the distant night sky. "Master, It's getting late. You should rest. The old butler said with concern from the side. Qin Yuanhong was expressionless, waved his hand, and said lightly, "You can withdraw first." The old butler hesitated for a moment, wanting to say something, but in the end, he didn't say it and quietly retreated. Qin Yuanhong's gaze was as cold as iron, and he said lightly, "Third sister, don't blame your elder brother. If you want to blame someone, blame your precious son for being too outrageous, actually crippling Fener." He lowered his head, his heart as heavy as water, quietly pondering. It wouldn't be long before the news of Qin Yuqi and Qin Chen's death would come, which would inevitably trigger an earthquake. Qin Yong, needless to say, would definitely die. The key was with the old master. How to appease his anger, Qin Yuanhong had no idea. However, now that things had come to this, he no longer had a chance to turn back. The so-called arrow once released cannot be retrieved. The speed of the matter's development was something even he had never expected. In fact, Qin Yuanhong knew very well that once the news of Qin Yuqi and his son's death spread, reaching the Holy Emperor's ears, it would not be a disaster for the Qin family, but a good thing. With His Majesty's personality, seeing the Qin family in chaos, he should be very happy. West of the city, the slaughter continued, just as Qin Chen reached the sixth person's side. Attack! A sharp shout suddenly rang out throughout the courtyard. Qin Yong, who had made thorough preparations, finally launched his attack. With a boom sound, several figures leaped out of the darkness, like fierce tigers pouncing on sheep, rushing towards Qin Chen's room. Brother! At the critical moment, Qin Chen also rushed out of the darkness. He couldn't bother concealing his figure and lightly shouted at the early Earth Realm assassin rushing forward. The early Earth Realm assassin froze, his figure that was flying out stagnated, and he immediately turned his head in confusion. And at this time, Qin Yong and the others had already rushed into Qin Chen's room. Die! Qin Chen roared at the bewildered assassin, his eyes flashing with coldness. The battle knife at his waist was instantly unsheathed, unleashing the knife skills he had honed through countless battles in his previous life. The black battle knife was like a black lightning bolt, instantly slicing across the throat of the early-stage Earth-rank assassin. With a soft sound, blood instantly spurted out like a fountain. The Earth-rank assassin clutched his neck tightly, unable to stop the gushing blood. His eyes widened in terror, gradually dimming as he collapsed to the ground. At this moment, Qin Yong and the other two had already rushed into Qin Chen's room. 3 terrifying waves of saber energy erupted, striking Qin Chen's bed. Boom! Under the onslaught of saber energy, the bed shattered into pieces, turning into dust. He's not here. Where did that kid go? Qin Yong and the others were instantly stunned to see the empty bed. After a brief moment of surprise, the 3 hurriedly returned to the courtyard. The courtyard was silent. Apart from the 3 of them, the warriors who had been lying in ambush in other places were nowhere to be seen, as if they were all dead. Where did the others go? A chill ran down everyone's spines. Lord! Look over there! A bloody scent drifted over with the night wind. Suddenly, an assassin cried out, pointing to a corner of the courtyard. There! A corpse lay on the ground stained red with blood. It was the assassin who had been killed with a single slash to the throat by Qin Chen earlier. It's Shadow 6. Damn it! Who did this? The pupils of the 3 couldn't help but contract violently. Could it be that we've been ambushed? Qin Yong and the other 2 gasped. Several of their subordinates had been silently killed. Could it be that their opponent was a heaven-rank expert? But according to their investigation, the Qin family had no one else besides Qin Yuqi and her son. Which heaven-rank expert would protect them? The remaining 2 assassins beside him felt a chill in their hearts at this scene. When they rushed into Qin Chen's room earlier, they vaguely saw Shadow 6 also rush out. Who knew that in such a short time, Shadow 6 had been killed without a sound? How did the opponent do it? The 3 slowly retreated together, vigilantly surveying the surrounding night sky. Who is it? If you're ambushing us here, have the guts to come out and face us. Qin Yong roared, his eyes scanning the surroundings, but everything was silent, without a single sound. In the courtyard, occasional insect chirps could be heard. The line of sight was empty, but Qin Yong and the other 2 vaguely felt a terrifying sensation of being watched. The hairs on their bodies stood on end. Seeing that Qin Yong and the others were not making any moves, Qin Chen also remained still, quietly waiting. The commotion here just now would definitely be heard by the surrounding people. When the city guards were attracted, it would only be Qin Yong and the others who would suffer. The only thing Qin Chen was worried about now was that his mother would not come out of the house. He wondered if she had heard Qin Chen's prayers. Qin Yuqi's room was quiet, without the slightest sound. Damn it! Time passed by, second by second. Qin Yong roared angrily. Dragging on any longer would be extremely disadvantageous to him. He immediately shouted, "Go take a look in Qin Yuqi's room. If there's no one there, we'll retreat." Qin Yong was extremely angry and terrified. He didn't know how Qin Chen and the others knew that they would come to assassinate them today. If they failed to kill Qin Yuqi and Qin Chen this time, Qin Yong couldn't imagine how the First Madam would punish him. Just thinking about the First Madam's viciousness made Qin Yong tremble all over. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 3 figures rushed towards Qin Yuqi's room. Not good. Qin Chen's heart sank. If Qin Yong and the others were to rush into the house, then his mother would be in danger. In this moment of crisis, Qin Chen didn't care about concealing his figure. He staggered out of the darkness. "Lord, be careful, there's an ambush in the house." His voice was hoarse as he rushed towards Qin Yong and the others, covered in blood. His voice was filled with boundless terror, as if he had seen something terrifying. "It's Shadow 7. Shadow 7, what exactly is going on?" The remaining 2 assassins beside Qin Yong were first shocked, but after seeing who it was, they breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly cried out in surprise. "There's an ambush in the house, we've all been." As Qin Chen spoke, he quickly approached the 3, his eyes locked onto Qin Yong, the true energy in his body instantly activated to the extreme. As long as he killed Qin Yong first, the remaining 2 assassins would not be a threat at all. Unexpectedly, Qin Yong was very careful and cautious. Seeing Qin Chen rushing over, he frowned, his body instinctively retreating. Then, as if he had discovered something, he cried out in alarm, "Be careful. He's been discovered." A cold glint flashed in Qin Chen's eyes. His figure suddenly shot up, and at the same time, the battle knife at his waist was suddenly unsheathed, slashing towards the mid-stage Earth-rank assassin. Qin Chen was only a few meters away from the mid-stage Earth-rank assassin. His sudden burst of attack was extremely fast. In the instant Qin Chen attacked, the pupils of the remaining 3 shrank. "You're not Shadow 7. Shadow 2 was shocked. Someone was impersonating Shadow 7. If Qin Yong hadn't reminded him, he wouldn't have been able to discover it at all. "Die." Qin Chen's eyes narrowed, shooting out a sharp killing intent. The battle knife he slashed out was like a black lightning bolt, slashing towards the top of Shadow 2's head. Shadow 2 snorted coldly. True energy brilliance instantly bloomed on his body. The battle knife in his hand conjured up a series of knife flowers. Countless knife lights flickered in the void, turning into a surging torrent, pouring out, wanting to block Qin Chen's attack and counterattack at the same time. As a mid-stage Earth-rank assassin, Shadow 2 was experienced in hundreds of battles. His combat experience was extremely rich. In this critical situation, his reaction could be said to be extremely fast. Unfortunately, the one who was ambushing him was not an ordinary person, but Qin Chen, who had been reborn. Shadow 2's dazzling knife skills did not confuse Qin Chen at all. With a clang, Qin Chen's battle knife accurately struck the weakest point of Shadow 2's knife technique. The power of 20 horses instantly burst out, and a spiral-like force struck, numbing Shadow 2's 5 fingers and causing his body to lean back. A cold light shot out from Qin Chen's left hand at some unknown time. It was actually a dagger. Accompanied by Shadow 2's backward lean, it was as if he had crashed into it himself. With a snicker sound, the dagger instantly pierced into Shadow 2's throat, burying itself to the hilt. Shadow 2's pupils instantly collapsed. He couldn't understand why the other party's dagger was shot so accurately. If it wasn't for his own backward lean, the other party's dagger would have only grazed the back of his head and wouldn't have been able to hurt him at all. There was actually such a person in the world, who had accurately calculated his retreat. In just a moment, Qin Chen had killed another one. Only Qin Yong and the other early-stage Earth-rank assassin, Shadow 5, were left on the field. In terms of strength, Shadow 2 was by no means so vulnerable, but Qin Chen had too much combat experience from his previous life. He saw through every flaw in Shadow 2's attack and even analyzed all of Shadow 2's reactions. With foreknowledge against ignorance, Shadow 2 was caught off guard and was immediately ambushed and killed by Qin Chen with a single blow. Whoosh! Taking advantage of the momentary daze of the other assassin, Shadow 5, Qin Chen didn't pause. With a backhand slash, the black battle blade tore through the void, like a gazelle hanging its horns, striking down in an unpredictable manner. Courting death. Seeing Shadow 2 killed by Qin Chen, Qin Yong instantly snapped back to his senses, roaring as he sent a palm strike towards Qin Chen. Qin Chen didn't dodge or evade, his eyes sharp, staring intently at Shadow 5, his piercing gaze like a sharp knife stabbing into Shadow 5's eyes. The intense killing intent made Qin Chen seem like an asura who had walked out of hell. His unyielding will surged into Shadow 5's mind. Combined with Qin Chen's previous one-hit kill of Shadow 2, in an instant, Shadow 5 didn't even have the courage to counterattack, only caring to retreat rapidly, fleeing in panic. Die. The sea of consciousness within his mind surged. Qin Chen activated his mental power. The mental power of a first-order late-stage cultivator instantly transformed into a sharp cone, piercing into Shadow 5's mind, causing his figure to stagnate. It was during this stagnation that Qin Chen's battle blade had already sliced across Shadow 5's neck, a fine head soaring into the sky, blood spurting nearly 10 feet high. One slash. Shadow 5 is dead. At this moment, Qin Yong's palm was already almost touching Qin Chen's back. Just as Qin Chen was about to be struck by Qin Yong, he suddenly took a deep breath, his back strangely collapsing a few inches. With a turn of his body, the blade blocked Qin Yong's palm. Bang! A huge force struck, Qin Chen's figure flew backwards in the void. As his true energy surged, the mask on his face shattered, revealing a tender face. After flying out more than 10 meters, he landed on the ground, his footsteps staggering backwards, each step shattering a piece of bluestone on the ground. Only after crushing 7 or 8 bluestones did Qin Chen completely stabilize his figure. Damn it! So it's you, you little bastard, damn it! This old man was truly blind. Qin Yong lowered his head and glanced at Shadow 2 and Shadow 5 lying in the pool of blood, his anger uncontrollable. He didn't expect that the guy who had been ambushing in the dark was actually Qin Chen. He had been frightened and wary, thinking there was some expert, and didn't dare to be too presumptuous. Who would have thought that in this moment of distraction, all the people he had brought were wiped out, not a single one left? How could he not be angry? That's right, it's me. Qin Yong. As a Qin family slave, coming here in the middle of the night, wouldn't be to pay your respects to this young master, right? Then kneel down and kowtow here. Qin Chen calmed the boiling true energy within his body, a cold smile appearing on the corner of his mouth. All the assassins that Qin Yong brought had been killed by him, now only Qin Yong was left. Stop pretending over there, brat, today is your death day. Qin Yong roared angrily. Having his identity exposed, he was too lazy to conceal it anymore. The mask on his face was shattered by his true energy, revealing a twisted and ferocious face, as he slapped his palm towards Qin Chen. Rumble. It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck in the courtyard. Black light flickered on Qin Yong's body, and an astonishing black aura spread out. Within the black aura, a violent black bear emerged, merging into Qin Yong's body. In an instant, Qin Yong's strength increased by more than double. The violent bear bloodline was precisely Qin Yong's bloodline power, belonging to the strength-type bloodline, which could greatly enhance a martial artist's strength, making their combat power extremely powerful. Qin Yong was originally a peak late-stage Earth realm expert, with astonishing strength. After merging with his bloodline power, he actually possessed the might to destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth. Seeing that Qin Yong's giant palm was about to strike Qin Chen's figure retreated like a stream of light, barely avoiding the shadow of the palm. Boom! Qin Yong's giant palm struck an ancient tree in the courtyard with one blow, breaking the ancient tree, which required one person to encircle, in half at the waist. Such strong power, at least 50 horsepower or more. Qin Chen frowned slightly. What's going on? This kid actually dodged it. Qin Yong was equally shocked in his heart. He didn't expect Qin Chen's reaction speed to be so fast, and the position he dodged to was exactly where his strength was weakest. Qin Chen was clearly just a teenager, but his combat experience was terrifyingly strong. If he still regarded him as a child, then the one who would be unlucky would definitely be himself. Thinking of this, Qin Yong no longer dared to hold back, instantly increasing his power to the maximum, and countless palm shadows instantly poured down towards Qin Chen. Boom, 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 boom. Smoke and dust flew in the courtyard, as if an earthquake had occurred, with roaring and explosions everywhere, and countless rubble and dust filled the air. Qin Chen's figure was like a nimble swallow, flying under Qin Yong's palm shadows. Only when he really couldn't avoid it did he wield his blade to resist, using the force to deflect the force. For a time, Qin Yong was actually unable to defeat Qin Chen. Occasionally, Qin Chen would suddenly unleash a slash, and that sharp blade energy even forced Qin Yong to retreat 3 points. This is impossible. This kid is clearly only a peak late-stage human realm martial artist. How can his strength be so strong? He's actually held on for so long. The more Qin Yong fought, the more shocked he became. He was a full realm higher than Qin Chen, but he couldn't do anything to him for a while. Qin Chen was like a nimble loach, constantly swimming in his palm shadows. Each time, he was just a hair's breadth away, clearly looking like there was no way to dodge, but he could always find a chance to escape. What I cultivate is the Xuan grade low-rank star-picking palm. Even a late-stage Earth realm martial artist would be beaten to death by me. Qin Yong was so depressed that he almost wanted to vomit blood. How would he know that a Xuan grade low-rank palm technique was already considered a good martial skill in the Great Qi Kingdom, but in Qin Chen's eyes, it was childishly basic. Plus, his mental power had just broken through, and with a casual scan, he could see at least 5 or 6 flaws. Qin Chen might still have some difficulty if he wanted to fight Qin Yong head-on, but simply maneuvering around didn't take any effort at all. Whoosh! While dodging, Qin Chen would often deliver a godlike slash, brushing past Qin Yong's body, scaring Qin Yong into breaking out in cold sweats several times. This won't do. This kid is really too strange, and his moves are treacherous and cunning, his speed is terrifyingly fast, and a slight carelessness could lead to being hit and killed. Qin Yong had never imagined that he would encounter such trouble when dealing with a teenager, making him, an Earthrealm martial artist, feel restrained and helpless. At this moment, he had already developed the intention to retreat, but when he thought of Zhao Feng's sharp gaze, Qin Yong could only grit his teeth and attack fiercely. I don't believe that I, a dignified peak late-stage Earth realm martial artist, can't deal with a little brat. Qin Yong thought extremely furiously, and suddenly a blood-colored pill appeared in his hand, and he swallowed it in one gulp. Boom! In the next moment, an overwhelming true energy burst out from Qin Yong's body, and the spirit, energy, and essence of his entire person were instantly increased by a full double. It's a blood-burst pill. Qin Chen was shocked in his heart. The blood-burst pill was a third-grade pill, very rare. Once taken, it could allow any martial artist below the Heaven Realm to increase their strength by double in a short period of time. But its side effects were also very obvious. That was, once the medicinal effect passed, there would be a period of weakness for several days, and the user could only lie in bed to recuperate. Ha ha ha, you little brat, let's see how you withstand this time. Qin Yong roared madly, a hint of blood-red color flashing in his eyes, as he pushed a palm towards Qin Chen. The power of this palm was more than twice as strong as before. Qin Chen only felt a surge of immense force sweeping over him, causing the blood in his body to churn. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Boom, boom, boom. Qin Yong waved his fists, attacking wildly and unrestrainedly, looking like a madman, determined to kill Qin Chen. Thunder bloodline. Suddenly, streaks of lightning appeared on Qin Chen's body. Within the lightning, his speed doubled. Swish, swish, swish. His figure was like a streak of electric afterimage, constantly moving, dodging all of Qin Yong's attacks. Qin Yong was so shocked that his eyeballs were about to burst. Damn it, he had worked so hard, tried every possible way, and taken his only treasured blood-burst pill that he had kept for many years, just to gain a slight advantage. But he never expected that Qin Chen would casually react and his strength would increase again, instantly rendering him helpless. At this moment, Qin Yong faintly had a kind of illusion. The Qin Chen in front of him seemed young, but he was like an unfathomable cold pool. Just when he thought he had reached the bottom, he discovered that it was even deeper and more immeasurable below. If I don't kill this kid today, I will definitely be the one who dies in the future. Just as Qin Yong's heart was twisted and he decided to risk his life to kill Qin Chen. Who's there? Causing trouble in the middle of the night, arrest them. Suddenly, a noisy sound of footsteps came from the distant street, accompanied by an angry roar. Several figures flew towards this side and instantly rushed into the courtyard. It's the royal capital city guards. Qin Yong's pupils suddenly shrank. Wasn't this the commoners' district? How did the city guards arrive so quickly? Generally speaking, the city guards were stationed in the East City, where there were many dignitaries and nobles. How could the West City react so quickly? Die. Knowing the urgency of the situation, Qin Yong pounced on Qin Chen at all costs. If he didn't kill him now, he wouldn't have another chance in the future. Bold madman, you still dare to act fierce. Roar. Like a thunderous roar, a domineering figure soared into the sky. The battle blade in his hand was full of domineering aura, turning into a ferocious wolf, colliding with the violent Qin Yong. Boom crack. The intense force swept across, as if a level 10 gale had blown up in the courtyard. Qin Yong's body swayed and fell to the ground. On the other hand, the person who came was trembling with both hands holding the battle blade. The tiger's mouth was split open, blood flowed down, and his face was full of shock. Your Excellency has such cultivation, yet you are acting fierce here. The person who came was a burly man with a face full of stubble like steel needles. His cultivation was also at the late peak of the Earth realm, and his whole body's true energy was boiling. Young Master Chen, I was late, and young Master Chen, you were frightened. After the burly man's shock, he saw the corpses and bloody aura all over the ground, and his face suddenly showed panic, and he cupped his hands at Qin Chen and said, "You are?" Qin Chen asked doubtfully. This subordinate is Zhao Li, the deputy commander of the city guard in the West City. He was entrusted by Prince Kang to personally guard the West City where young Master Chen lives these days. I didn't expect to be late. Please forgive me, young Master Chen. Zhao Li was greatly frightened in his heart. During the day today, Prince Kang repeatedly told him to protect young Master Chen's safety. But in Zhao Li's opinion, Qin Chen was just a teenager. What danger could he be in? Therefore, although he was on standby nearby, he was not staring at him very nervously. Who knew that in the middle of the night, a subordinate informed him that there was indeed a sound of fighting coming from the West City. Zhao Li was immediately shocked and rushed over as soon as possible, which is why he arrived so quickly. At this moment, seeing the corpses and blood all over the ground, Zhao Li was incomparably horrified in his heart. If he had come later, and something happened to young Master Chen, how would he explain to Prince Kang? Thinking of this, Zhao Li couldn't help but break out in cold sweat on his back, and immediately stared fiercely at Qin Yong. Come on, arrest this guy who intends to murder young Master Chen and interrogate him severely. As soon as he finished speaking, 7 or 8 city guards rushed up frantically, each of them like tigers and wolves, their whole bodies surging with true energy. From the previous fight between the commander and Qin Yong, they had already seen that Qin Yong's strength was extremely strong. Therefore, they did not hold back when they attacked, and at the same time, they were extremely cautious. Bang 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 bang. However, Qin Yong, who had taken the blood-burst pill, was like a madman. His late-stage peak Earth realm cultivation was undoubtedly revealed. The 7 or 8 city guards were all in the early and middle stages of the Earth realm and were instantly swept away, each with a flushed face and spitting blood. Commander Zhao, the opponent is too difficult to deal with. Many city guards said in horror. Qin Chen, no matter who it is today, no one can save you. Qin Yong knew that this was the last chance to kill Qin Chen. Taking advantage of the fact that the medicinal effect in his body was still there, he pounced on Qin Chen frantically. Madman, you're courting death. Zhao Li's face changed drastically, and he hurriedly blocked Qin Yong. The two sides fought fiercely in this courtyard. In an instant, sand and stones flew, and the sound of explosions was everywhere in the courtyard, which was extremely clear in the night. Under Qin Yong's violence, although Zhao Li was also a late-stage peak Earth realm martial artist, he was suppressed everywhere, and his figure was constantly retreating. Qin Chen frowned on the side. If Zhao Li was defeated, it would be troublesome. It's not that he can't kill Qin Yong, but if he does, he will inevitably use some trump cards. The difference between his strength before and after is too great, and even his mother has become suspicious. If it spreads out, I'm afraid it will attract more attention. At this stage, it's better to bide his time. At this time, a sudden change occurred on the field. Roar! Qin Yong let out a roar, his figure rubbed up, the powerful fist force shook Zhao Li's face pale, and he retreated frantically. Seeing that Zhao Li was about to be defeated by Qin Yong on the spot. Zhao Li, attack his left rib. Suddenly, Qin Chen's eyes flashed and he shouted in a low voice. In the midst of the crisis, Zhao Li didn't have time to hesitate and subconsciously slashed at Qin Yong's left rib with a knife. Crack! The violent fist energy was instantly split open by the battle blade, and the terrifying blade light slashed towards Qin Yong's left rib along the opening. What? Zhao Li was stunned and was shocked by this obvious result. Qin Yong's fist wind was extremely terrifying, and there were almost no flaws. He had tried his best several times before, but he had failed to break through the defense. How could it be effective all of a sudden? Settle your energy into your dantian, condense Xiaoyang, wild geese descend on the sand. Before Zhao Li could figure out the reason, Qin Chen suddenly chanted again. Zhao Li did not hesitate this time and started to perform according to what Qin Chen said. He only felt that the true energy in his body was flowing smoothly, the battle blade was light and incomparable, and it seemed to be twice as fast as usual, leaving a wound several inches long on Qin Yong's body. Zhao Li's eyeballs were about to burst, holding the battle blade in his hand stupidly, completely dumbfounded. What the hell is going on? He had worked so hard before, and he could only barely support himself under Qin Yong's hands. How could Qin Chen just give him 2 pointers and he would immediately turn defeat into victory, and even hurt the other party? Is this too evil? Zhao Li didn't know that the shock in Qin Yong's heart was 100 times stronger than him. Damn it! Why can this kid see the flaws in my boxing technique? His star-picking fist is a low-grade Xuan-level boxing technique, and there are almost no flaws, but his left rib was injured before, which caused the left side of the boxing technique to be somewhat inadequate. This was originally a secret, but Qin Chen repeatedly grasped it, making Qin Yong almost vomit blood.